Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176 Invitation. Is there someone over at the Banyan Island going through the tribulation? Going through the tribulation? Could it be that the Li family is going to have a second giant cultivator? What kind of luck is this for the Li family? In just a dozen or 20 years, two giant cultivators have appeared one after another. It took Yuan Mingzong decades of accumulation to have the second giant Henren, just when everyone in the Li family was worried about Li Zhirui. A spiritual ship that happened to pass by on the sea happened to see this scene and shouted in surprise. However, they didn't know that encountering this giant tribulation was not a good thing for them. Second grandfather, there is a spiritual ship not far away overseas, and there are many cultivators on it, Li Zhirui said coldly. His spiritual beast, the jade-billed eagle, happened to discover this group of cultivators while patrolling nearby, and immediately reported the matter to Li Zhirui. Then I'll go there, Li Zhirui nodded, and with a move of his body, he turned into a spiritual light and disappeared. The main reason was that the atmosphere between the Li family and Yuan Mingzong began to become a little tense, since he never sold the foundation-building pill to the Li family. If they knew that Li Zhirui was going through the tribulation, who knows what they would do. Therefore, it is better not to expose Li Zhirui's breakthrough to the golden core before he consolidates his own realm. It is conceivable what the fate of these casual cultivators will be. In Li Zhirui's eyes, some casual cultivators who practice Qi are nothing more than ants. In their horrified and unbelievable eyes, he killed them casually, and ensured that no fish would slip through the net. When Li Zhirui returned to the Banyan Island, only half a quarter of an hour had passed. Li Zhirui was still struggling in the third tribulation thunder. While gritting his teeth to endure the thunder power of destruction and creation, he also had to integrate his own spirit and spirit to condense into the immortal true meaning. Li Zhirui's face was distorted with pain, but he did not dare to open his mouth to wail, for fear that if he lost his temper, the tribulation would fail. After an unknown amount of time, a strong suction force suddenly erupted from Li Zhirui's danshan, and the calamity cloud turned into pure spiritual energy, pouring into the round, shiny golden elixir in his danshan. Success! Li Zhirui and others were overjoyed. From then on, the Li family had a second golden elixir cultivator, and they no longer had to fear Yuan Mingzong. Li Zhirui, who was standing by, also breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that he succeeded. Second brother, Zhirui, I'll go consolidate my realm first, and I'll tell you more when I come out of retreat. Li Zhirui's voice came out, and then he flashed into the spirit cave. Li Zhirui said seriously, no one is allowed to leak the fact that Zhirui has broken through the golden elixir, otherwise he will be punished according to the clan rules. Yes, everyone was startled, and the smiles on their faces were slightly restrained, especially those clan members who wanted to go out and show off, and they quickly gave up their thoughts. But what was unexpected was that half a month later, Yuan Mingzong sent a foundation-building cultivator to the Banyan Island. Go and bring him in, but don't let him come in contact with too many clan members. Li Zhirui frowned and thought for a while, then said. After a while, a middle-aged man walked in, bowed his head and said, Yuan Mingzong Liu Changli greets Daoyao. Li Zhirui stood up and returned the greeting, and asked, Daoyao suddenly came to visit, I wonder what's the matter. Daoyao is so young, but he has developed the Li family so well. He is really young and promising. Liu Changli did not answer his question, but said with emotion. Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with a dark light. Could it be that Yuan Mingzong knew that Li Zhirui had broken through the golden elixir and sent him to inquire about the news? That's not right. The Li family did a very good job of keeping this matter secret, and it was impossible for it to be leaked. After chatting for a while, Liu Changli told the purpose of his visit today. Not long ago, Uncle Jiang broke through the middle stage of Jiangdan, and he had some understanding, so he wanted to organize a banquet to discuss with the seniors and discuss an important matter. I came here this time to invite the Li family to Yuanming Mountain for a banquet. Middle stage of Jiangdan, Li Zhirui exclaimed in a somewhat inappropriate manner. He thought that after Li Zhirui's breakthrough, the strength of the Li family could barely tie with Yuan Mingzong, but now it seems that the opponent is still over the Li family. And wasn't it rumored that Jiang Xianming was seriously injured and would not live long? How come he broke through the middle stage of Jinden again? What he didn't know was that Jiang Xianming was indeed injured at the beginning, and the injury was quite serious. But misfortunes often come with blessings. Maybe it's because of the accumulation of many years, Jiang Xianming was on the verge of a breakthrough, and he broke through like this. However, because of the serious injury and the previous solution of the King Jian sect with injuries, he has not appeared in these years. Li Zhirui was not aware of these inside stories, but he also knew that this banquet was very likely a Hongmen banquet. Yes, Liu Changli seemed to suddenly remember something and said with a smile, Uncle Jiang also said that this matter is of great importance, please don't miss it. Li Zhirui's face was very ugly, because the other party's words were nakedly forcing the Li family, otherwise the Li family must be in trouble. I know, I will tell my second grandfather about this, Li Zhirui asked with a cold face, if you have nothing to do, why don't you rest on the island for a while? No, I still have to go back to the sect to report this matter. Liu Changli shook his head, a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes, and he turned and left immediately. What does Yuan Mingzong want to do? Did he only invite our Jinden force, or are there other Jinden forces? Without any clues, Li Zhirui could not come up with an answer even if he racked his brains. Li Zhirui summoned the foundation building cultivators and Li Shiking on the island and told everyone what he had just said. What do you think Yuan Mingzong wants to do? Li Shiren said with an unpleasant expression, it is very likely that he wants to take this opportunity to destroy us and then annex the Daring Island. You know, the current Daring Island has changed greatly from its original appearance. In terms of area, after years of moving the island by Li Shiking, it has extended nearly 100 miles to the east. In terms of spiritual energy, in addition to the 2 third-level spiritual veins, there are 2 second-level spiritual veins that are being promoted, and the first-level spiritual veins in the east that are in the process of being conceived. When these spiritual veins are formed, the spiritual energy of the Daring Island will be more concentrated than that of Yuanming Mountain. Although the Li family has a small population, it is not without benefits. For example, it can save a lot of spiritual stones for other infrastructure. Facing such a spiritual island, it is impossible for Yuan Mingzong not to be tempted. Second uncle, are you ready to participate? Li Shiting asked with a frown. Li Shiking thought about it, and finally shook his head to refuse, and said in a deep voice, go to Yunping's house and bring back those clansmen. Before Shilian comes out of retreat, all clansmen must not leave Daring Island. With a third-level defense formation, it is almost impossible for Yuan Mingzong to break through Daring Island unless they are willing to sacrifice the lives of a large number of disciples. Chapter 177, Leaving the Seclusion. As for the clansmen on the 3 islands of Redwood Island, Jiuquan Island, and Blue Mountain Island, although they are somewhat dangerous, they can only stay where they are, lest they cause unrest among the scattered cultivators after they withdraw, and destroy the spiritual veins and spiritual fields on the islands. In fact, the clansmen outside should be relatively safe. Unless Yuan Mingzong really wants to tear his face with the Li family and fight to the death, he should not take action against them. The reason why the clansmen of Yunping's house are allowed to come back is mainly because the Li family decided to abandon the 2 shops in Yunping's house. In fact, a few years ago, some clansmen proposed to close the shops in Yunping's house and concentrate on running the market on Redwood Island. However, at that time, there were not many cultivators on the 3 islands, and their consumption capacity was not strong, so the matter was dropped. But now, there are more than 4,000 resident scattered cultivators on the 3 islands, and more cultivators come to the islands to hunt water monsters. Although it is not as good as Yunping's house, this number is enough to support a small market. Be careful during this period. After saying that, Li Shiking fully activated the clan protection formation. Time passed quickly, and soon it was the day when Yuan Mingzong held a banquet. However, the banquet, which was supposed to be lively and festive, was now very cold, even though many monks sent by various forces were sitting there. The Li family didn't send anyone to the banquet, Jiang Xianming said coldly. In that case, let's ignore them and start the banquet. All the monks present felt cold when they heard this. It seemed that Jiang Xianming was not angry, but only he knew what he was thinking. The monks toasted each other, watching the graceful dance, which was very pleasant, but some of them just couldn't stand this atmosphere, otherwise they would stir up trouble. Senior Jiang, you invited many nearby families to come, but the Li family ignored you. It is obvious that they have already looked down on Yuan Mingzong. As soon as these words came out, the monks, who had been a little drowsy after drinking a few cups of spiritual wine, suddenly woke up and looked at the monk who spoke with a shocked face. The monks from the same family as him were scared to death. He did not expect that his companions would say such treasonous words. Ho ha, this is just an exchange meeting. If they don't want to come, it is also his resource. How can you say that you look down on them? Zhang Xianming laughed softly. But Mingling on the side looked particularly ugly, because this banquet was completely prepared for the Li family. But in the end, no monks from the Li family came. Yuan Mingzong wanted to take this opportunity to humiliate the Li family in front of so many monks, making people feel that the Li family is not so powerful. And if Li Shiking came in person, then Zhang Xianming and Mingling would join forces to keep him in Yuanming Mountain. Unfortunately, both plans fell through. Not long after, the banquet came to an end. As for the so-called exchange and preaching before, it did not exist at all. But even so, the people who came to the banquet did not dare to have any opinions. They could only leave gifts and congratulations, and then hurriedly left Yuanming Mountain. But everyone could see that the Li family was going to be in trouble. Brother, if the Li family is not taught a lesson, it will be even more difficult to suppress them in the future, Mingling said coldly. In fact, he wanted to destroy the Li family and then take Daring Island into his pocket just like he annexed Guangqing's Hao. But Li Shiking has not left Daring Island for many years, and they can't do it on his home turf. But what should we do? Zhang Xianming shook his head and said helplessly, the Li family is cautious, and Li Shiking is even more cautious. It is impossible for them to get out of the defensive formation, as long as Li Shiking is still alive, even if the two of them kill all the other cultivators of the Li family. In a sense, it is a useless effort, and it will stimulate Li Shiking. In the future, the disciples of Yuanming sect will probably not dare to announce their family background when they are outside, otherwise they may be beaten and killed by Li Shiking. But before the two of them could discuss how to deal with the Li family, a piece of news spread throughout Yunping's Hao in an instant, and everyone was shocked. Li Shilian broke through the golden elixir. How is this possible? Mingling said in disbelief. This was also the first reaction of most cultivators after hearing the news. Yuan Mingzong had accumulated for so many years before he gave birth to his second Jinden, but how long has it been since the Li family? This may have happened in the Li family. Zhang Xianming was relatively calm, because he adjusted his mentality quickly. Now that things have become a foregone conclusion, it has no great impact on Yuan Mingzong, because even if Li Shilian breaks through the Jinden, his overall strength is not their opponent. It is nothing more than losing the opportunity to annex the big Banyan Island. Perhaps Zhang Xianming, a middle-stage Jinden, can easily suppress and defeat Li Shiking, but it is not an easy task to kill him, at least it is difficult for him to do it alone. Speaking of which, the Li family was quite lucky in these two tribulations, and they were not discovered by the outside world. If the Li family had not taken the initiative to say it, I am afraid we would not know it until now. If they knew that someone in the Li family was going through the tribulation, they would not be so hesitant. They would definitely take over the big Banyan Island, while Li Shilian was still not out of retreat, and pay a certain price. It's a pity that there is no such thing as if in the world. At the same time, on the Banyan Island, Li Shilian, who had spent several months consolidating his realm, walked out of the spirit cave with a high-spirited look. Congratulations, fortunately, I have succeeded in forming a pill, Li Shilian said with a smile. Li Shiking smiled and nodded, saying, you came out of retreat at the right time. If you were a little later, Yuan Mingzong might have come to visit. What's going on? After hearing the reason for the matter, Li Shilian frowned and sighed, saying, the family and Yuan Mingzong seem to have a good relationship on the surface, but one day this illusion will be torn apart. This is inevitable, unless both of their forces do not want to continue to grow and develop. Let's take it one step at a time. In public, Li Shiking couldn't say that Li Zhirui was in retreat to break through. According to the rules, a grand ceremony for forming a pill will be prepared for you. If you need anything, you can tell the family. Otherwise, it will be arranged according to the second grandfather's arrangement, Li Zhizhan asked. That's it, no need to change it. Li Shilian didn't care much about it. Sure enough, it's not that easy to break through the Jinden realm. Li Zhirui's voice rang out in the quiet room. He had been in seclusion for so long this time, but he still couldn't find the feeling of breakthrough. Li Zhirui didn't know how many times he had read the two Jinden insights of his family. Although he had some understanding, it was not enough for him to break through the shackles. It's okay, It's just a few years, I can afford it, Li Zhirui whispered to himself to comfort himself. But it was indeed as he said, he was still very young, there were plenty of opportunities and time, so Li Zhirui's mood was very peaceful now. Chapter 178 Provocation. The Li family held a second giant ceremony and invited all the surrounding forces to attend the banquet, but in fact, they were still in the sphere of influence of Shanli Mountain. After all, the Li family only had 2 giants, and their strength was limited. They did not have the face to invite the forces of Qingshan State. Even if they did not belong to Shanli Mountain, they might not send people to the banquet. Congratulations to fellow Taoist for forming a giant, and you will enjoy a lifespan of 500 years from now on. A dark light flashed in Zhang Xianming's eyes, but his face was full of smiles. Li Zhilian smiled and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoists. Cultivation has made a further step, which is also a great joy." Unfortunately, the family was busy at that time and could not attend fellow Taoists' banquet. "I hope fellow Taoists will forgive me, no problem, it's just a small matter." While the two were chatting, the giant cultivators sent by Shanli Mountain to the banquet also arrived. After congratulations and greetings, the two were personally taken to the banquet by Li Zhilian and waited for the banquet to start. As giant cultivators, they were naturally the last to arrive, so not long after they sat down, they began to serve various spiritual objects. Compared with Li Shiking's giant ceremony, this one seemed more luxurious. Various third-level spiritual fruits and spiritual wines filled the giant table, and even a plate of second-level spiritual food was placed in front of all the cultivators. A few years ago, Li Zhilao, one of the 2 foundation-building cultivators born in the Li family, was a spiritual chef. After a period of learning and improvement, he can now make second-level spiritual food with relative ease. The spiritual food at this banquet was made by him personally, with good color, fragrance and taste, which made many foundation-building cultivators' appetites whetted. From these small aspects, it can be seen that the Li family has accumulated some foundation in the past few years. Perhaps it will not take many years to transform into a real giant force. However, not everyone is happy to see this situation. Among them, the cultivators who came to the banquet from Yuan Mingzhuang had the worst look. This is mainly because the distance between the Li family and Yuan Mingzhuang is too close. If both forces want to develop, they will inevitably touch each other's territory, thereby damaging each other's interests. Perhaps Yuan Mingzhuang did not expect that not long after they eliminated their mortal enemy King Jian's sect, a new opponent appeared, and it even looked more threatening than King Jian's sect. This is reflected in the fact that the Li family's strength is growing too fast. In less than 10 years, there was one more giant. Although there were not many foundation-building cultivators, it was because of the lack of foundation-building pills. Even so, 2 foundation-building cultivators were born. As for the key training cultivators, it is not necessary to say that the increase is not dozens of dozens, but many times. With such a potential Li family right next to him, how can Yuan Mingzhuang feel at ease? It's a pity that the current Li family has become powerful. Although it is still not as good as Yuan Mingzhuang, it can no longer be easily solved. Thinking of this, Zhang Xianming felt a strong regret in his heart. If he had known this earlier, he should have taken advantage of Li Shiking's injury and joined forces with junior brother Mingling to kill him and eliminate the disaster. After the toasts, Li Zhilian began to preach. However, the giant from Shanli Mountain suddenly said, "My 2 Taoist friends, if you are not in a hurry, why don't you take a look at the gifts sent by the sect?" Li Shiking and Li Zhilian frowned slightly when they heard this. What is Shanli Mountain going to do? It also gave them a bad feeling. But they couldn't refuse it, so they had to ask someone to open the gift sent by Shanli Mountain. This is, Li Shiking and others' faces changed slightly, and the eyes of other foundation-building forces were full of envy. No one expected that Shanli Mountain would send such a thing to the Li family. Foundation-building spiritual medicine. And they sent 10 sets of foundation-building spiritual medicine. I heard that the Li family lacks foundation-building pills, but the sect disciples have great demand for them. We really can't give out elixirs directly, so we have to give some elixirs to let fellow Taoists refine them by themselves, the golden pill suddenly asked. Speaking of which, where's the younger generation of the Li family who refines foundation-building pills? Thank you for your kindness. Then Li Shiking explained, he had some insight some time ago and is now practicing in seclusion. Upon hearing this, the golden pill nodded and said no more, as if it was just a casual mention. Li Shiking narrowed his eyes slightly. Shenlai Mountain wanted the Li family and Yuanming sect to fight. Although the strength of the two families is far inferior to Shenlai Mountain and cannot threaten Shenlai Mountain's status, there should still be some checks and balances. The previous conflict between Yuanming sect and King Jian sect was probably related to Shenlai Mountain, but no one expected that the Li family would suddenly appear and join forces to destroy King Jian sect. Jiang Xianming next to him also understood this, but his expression was very calm, and he had obviously expected this. While everyone was thinking about their own things, Li Shilian stepped forward and began to preach. He talked about his understanding of earth magic. Because it was a symbolic sermon, it ended half an hour later. This also meant that the banquet was coming to an end. Led by Xinli and Jindan, everyone stood up and left. In order to check the gifts sent by various forces, Li Shiking and other family leaders came to the main hall and counted them not long after. Most of them were second-level spiritual objects. Yuan Mingzhuang received a relatively ordinary third-level spiritual object, and the most precious of them was naturally the 10 foundation-building spiritual medicines sent by Xinli. It seems that Xinli is not willing to see Yuan Mingzhuang continue to grow. Li Shilian sighed. After annexing the King Jian sect, Yuan Mingzhuang has occupied a corner of the southeast. If they annex the Li family's territory, then there will only be one family in the entire southeast. How could Xinli allow this to happen? Now, the only force in the southeast region that has the ability to stop Yuan Mingzhuang is the Li family, so Xinli will naturally help. The Yuan Mingzhuang is still stronger than our family, so it's better not to confront him. Li Zhirui frowned. He originally thought that after Li Shilian's breakthrough, he could at least communicate with Yuan Mingzhuang on an equal footing, not to mention destroying him. But now it seems that the Li family is still inferior to him. If it were just that, it would be fine. After all, the two forces are wary of each other, and there shouldn't be too much conflict. But Shenlai Mountain can't stand the two families' peaceful coexistence. Everyone's face was slightly bitter. Who would have thought that Jiang Xianming, who hadn't appeared for many years, would bring them such a big surprise? Forget it, let's leave it like this for now, and we'll talk about it later. Li Shiking shook his head. No matter how much they discussed, it would be useless. It depends on how Yuan Mingzhuang reacted. He turned and said, let's discuss how to deal with these 10 foundation-building elixirs now. Aren't we going to wait for Zhirui to come out of retreat and give it to him to refine? Li Shilian and others looked at Li Shiking in confusion. Li Shiren said, Zhirui refined the foundation-building pill last time, and it will definitely work this time, and the quantity will increase. Chapter 179 Bottleneck. Logically speaking, it should indeed be handed over to Li Zhirui for refining, but Li Shiking knew that he would not come out of retreat in a short time. Second brother, are you worried that Zhirui will have to retreat for a long time? Seeing Li Shiking nod, Li Shilian thought for a while and said, then wait a little longer. Anyway, the family is not short of foundation-building pills now. If there are enough foundation-building spiritual medicines, you can try to train a new alchemist, but now there are only 10 materials, and the spiritual objects planted by the family will take decades to mature. It can't afford to waste, so it's better to be safe. And the protagonist Li Zhirui, who is in everyone's mouth, has now ended this nearly 10-year retreat. But it's not because he successfully broke through and wanted to go back to the family to seek Li Shiking's help to protect the law, but because he encountered a bottleneck. Li Zhirui had a feeling in his heart that if he wanted to rely on retreat to slowly kill time, he might not succeed in less than 10 or 20 years. Alice. Why did I encounter a bottleneck at this critical moment? Li Zhirui sighed helplessly. He thought he could successfully enter the gate of Jindan and become a Jindan's Henren, but he didn't expect to encounter such a bumpy road. In fact, Li Zhirui had some guesses about how the bottleneck came about. It was probably because he swallowed too many elixirs. Even if he had polished his magic power and cleaned up the poison in the elixir, there were still some hidden dangers. Over time, this hidden danger eventually turned into a bottleneck, blocking his path of cultivation. There are two ways to break through the bottleneck. The first is to be patient and spend more than 10 years to solve it. The second is to go out for training, or to grow your state of mind when encountering things, or to break through the bottleneck in a life and death crisis. Li Zhirui never thought of using the first solution. Although it was safe, it took too long. Now the relationship between the family and Yuan Mingzhuang was not known when a conflict would break out. So there was no choice. Li Zhirui had to go out for training and seek opportunities for breakthroughs. And it seemed that he would encounter an opportunity this time when he went out. Li Zhirui frowned slightly. This feeling of being there and not there also meant that the relationship between opportunity and him was not so close. Shaking his head, not wanting to think about it, Li Zhirui pushed open the door of the long-sealed quiet room and said to Daking and Zhaoking, "Let's go. Let's go back to Banyan Island first, G." Daking called out in confusion, not understanding why Li Zhirui was leaving before he had even made a breakthrough. After so many years of cultivation, Daking was not far from the late stage of foundation building, and he should be able to break through in a few years. Zhaoking's cultivation speed was not slow either, and he was about to break through the middle stage of foundation building. It seemed that in addition to the large number of spiritual objects given by Li Zhirui, he had also been quite attentive in cultivation over the years. "I've encountered a bottleneck and can't break through in a short time, so I'm going to go out for a walk," Li Zhirui said with a smile. "Li." Zhaoking heard this and called out excitedly. Although no one was restraining him, he was already tired of flying around, which was only a few hundred miles above Redwood Island. I know. I'll let you out after we get out and let you have enough fun." Li Zhirui rubbed his ears. He hadn't heard such a loud eagle cry for a long time. Suddenly, he couldn't accept it. Li Zhirui put the two pets back into the space, pushed open the gate, and prepared to say hello to the clan members stationed here. "Uncle Jiu, you finally came out of retreat," a somewhat unfamiliar Kigan clan member shouted in surprise. Li Zhirui was stunned when he heard it. Uncle Jiu? Although there were already clan members of the Cheng generation, it was the first time he heard a young man who looked like him call him Uncle Jiu. "Well, I'm going to go back to the family this time. After a while, the family should send another foundation building person to take charge. You guard the market well and don't let any accidents happen." "Yes," several people responded excitedly. Li Zhirui looked at them with some amusement, thought about it, took out a few bottles of Yulingdan from the storage bag, and said, "Practice well." After that, he called Zhaoking Fishan away. "You said, has Uncle Jiu broken through to the late stage of foundation building?" Several people excitedly put away the jade bottle, and then discussed it with great interest. "He must have broken through. With Uncle Jiu's qualifications, he has been in seclusion for such a long time, he must have broken through to the late stage of foundation building." Although Li Zhirui has not appeared for a long time, the deeds of the family about him have not decreased. After all, his growth experience and process are indeed worthy of the Li family to write about and set him up as a role model for other clan members. That Kangfang eagle is so majestic. It would be great if I had such a spirit beast. Don't think about it. It's a third-level spirit beast. I heard that Uncle Jiu's Kangfang eagle often mixes with the family's jade-billed eagle, and maybe a hybrid spirit eagle can be born. Even if it's true, we can't make a contract unless we can break through the foundation building. Hearing this, everyone's original excited expressions instantly turned cold. As family members, their treatment is definitely better than that of casual cultivators, and they don't have to run around for sporadic resources. But if they want to build a foundation, the difficulty is not much lower than that of casual cultivators. Do you know Zhuanggu? She is only a 4 spiritual root, but now she is already a foundation-building cultivator. Don't give up easily. Having said that, how many people can do this? If Li Zhirui is a role model for all the members of the Li family, then Li Zhixun is the idol of those members of the family who are not qualified, and will bring them a glimmer of hope and motivation to persevere. Why did you suddenly come out of retreat? Li Shiking looked at Li Zhirui, who suddenly appeared in front of him, and said with some surprise. Li Zhirui pursed his lips and told him about the bottleneck he encountered, and then said, "I am going to go out for training and seek a chance to break through. You just came out of retreat, and you don't know that Shi Lian broke through the golden elixir some time ago. The threat of Yuan Mingzong to the family is not that big. You don't have to take such a risk. The current situation of the Li family is not that bad." Although Shen Lishan hopes that the two families will start fighting, everyone is still calm. Of course, it may be because they know that they can't do anything to each other. If they really fight, it will completely consume their own strength, and it is not worth it. Before the existing balance is broken, the Li family will be in a peaceful development environment. Therefore, Li Shiking did not want Li Zhirui to take the risk of going out to find a breakthrough opportunity, but to stay in the clan land and slowly eliminate the bottleneck. Grandpa Lian has formed a pill. Li Zhirui looked overjoyed. He did not expect that he would encounter such a good thing after he came out of seclusion. Then Li Zhirui considered whether to continue going out. Although there was no external pressure, there were still opportunities tempting Li Zhirui, so he finally decided not to change his mind. Li Shiking knew that Li Zhirui did not listen at a glance, shook his head helplessly, and said, "Before you leave, help the family refine 10 furnaces of foundation building pills. Thank you for your support and happy 2023. Chapter 180 Repayment. The spiritual medicine planted by the family is not yet mature, right? Li Zhirui asked in surprise. Li Shiking explained the source of the spiritual medicine, and Li Zhirui instantly understood Shanli Mountain's intention. He sneered and said, "What a good balance of power, the people of Yuan Mingzong are not fools. They will not take action against the family in a short time, unless the other party has another giant and cultivator. They feel that they can completely suppress the Li family. But how can a giant and cultivator be born so easily? The Li family can have 2 giant in a short period of time because of many opportunities." Li Zhirui nodded lightly. Without external pressure on the family, he is no longer so anxious and can travel all the way. "I won't ask any more questions. Just be careful." Li Zhirui smiled a little embarrassedly and said, "Second grandfather, do you still have 3rd-level talismans? I want to exchange a few with contribution points." "How many?" Li Shiking glared at him and said, "Do you think 3rd-level talismans are cabbages? You ask for a few at a time." Although Li Shiking's success rate in making 3rd-level talismans has increased a lot, the materials are rare and expensive. Can they be made easily? The 3rd-level talismans he has now are all used to save the lives of Li Zhirui and others when they go out to travel. "At most, I will give you 2 defensive talismans," Li Shiking said with some regret. "The difficulty of the escape talisman is too high, otherwise 1 escape talisman would be enough. The difficulty of the 3rd-level escape talisman is far beyond other 3rd-level talismans, and the materials used are extremely precious. With the financial resources of the Li family, they can only buy a few materials every year. Moreover, the 3rd-level escape talismans are almost non-existent on the market. Occasionally, 1 or 2 are revealed from the hands of major forces, and they are quickly bought by others." "That's enough. Thank you, second grandfather." Li Zhirui was overjoyed. He didn't expect to get 2 3rd-level defense talismans. The safety of his experience this time will be greatly improved. "Okay, go and refine the foundation building pill." After saying that, he waved his hand and drove Li Zhirui out. The foundation building elixir was not in Li Shiking's hand, but in the warehouse behind the main hall. Fortunately, he had a warrant and didn't need to find Li Zhirui again. He could come in and take the elixir by himself. However, when he took the elixir and was about to return to the courtyard, he ran into Li Zhirui and exchanged greetings with him. "Zhirui, have you broken through the late stage of foundation building?" Li Zhirui said with surprise. Li Zhirui nodded. After he came out of retreat this time, he didn't hide his cultivation anymore, so he was seen through at a glance. "Good, good, good." Li Zhirui was overjoyed and said repeatedly, "Practice well, break through the golden elixir as soon as possible, and then destroy Yuan Mingzong." Li Zhirui heard this and was immediately at a loss whether to laugh or cry. His elder brother really never forgot to destroy Yuan Mingzong. But judging from the means of Shanli Mountain, even if they destroyed Yuan Mingzong, Shanli Mountain might support a giant in force. Shaking his head, Li Zhirui stopped thinking about this distant thing and said, "Brother, I have to prepare to refine the foundation building pill next. So I will go back first." "Okay, thank you for your hard work." Li Zhirui nodded slightly. He still had a lot of things to deal with. With the growth of the family's strength and the increase in the number of clan members, there were more and more things he needed to deal with. If Li Zhirui had not established various full-time halls to relieve a lot of pressure for him, he would probably not have a few hours to rest in a whole day. With a Jingchen formation, even if the small courtyard has not been inhabited for several years, it is still clean and tidy, and Li Zhirui does not need to spend time cleaning it. What a pity. Looking at the newly grown spiritual medicine in the courtyard, Li Zhirui sighed with regret. These spiritual medicines were already mature when he was in seclusion, but no one picked them, and they did not break through the grade, so they naturally withered and decayed, leaving seeds to take root and sprout again. However, there were too many spiritual seeds, which caused the newly grown spiritual medicines to grow very crowded on this spiritual field. If Li Zhirui did not intervene, they would probably have to go through a fierce struggle to determine who was superior. Because the grade of these spiritual medicines was not high, Li Zhirui casually removed some of them and did not care about it anymore. After that, he adjusted his breath in the courtyard for several days, and then went out to refine the spiritual medicine to start refining the foundation building pill. Although Li Zhirui has been in seclusion for these years, his ability to refine pills has not regressed. It's just that the difficulty of refining the foundation building pill is not low. Even though he had already refined the foundation building pill before, he failed several times before he successfully refined the first batch of foundation building pills. 2. Not bad. Although the number was not large, Li Zhirui was already very satisfied, and he still had 6 materials left. If nothing unexpected happened, he should be able to get more than a dozen foundation building pills. However, in order to ensure his own condition, Li Zhirui did not rush to refine all of them, but kept 5 spiritual medicines and waited until tomorrow to refine them. 2 days passed in a flash, and Li Zhirui successfully refined the last batch of foundation building pills. This time, he was surprised that he had refined 4 pills, 7 materials, and 19 foundation building pills. Li Zhirui smiled. This harvest was unexpected for him. He said, in this way, the family will not be short of foundation building pills in a short time. As for the 2 foundation building pills he had kept in his hand before, Li Zhirui was originally going to take them out, but now that he had refined so many, he gave up and decided to find a chance to sell them and earn some spirit stones. After another night of rest, Li Zhirui took his full harvest to find Li Shiking, ready to hand over the foundation building pills to him, and stay in the family for a few more days, and then go out to practice and look for the opportunity to break through the golden pill. 9th brother, long time no see, but unexpectedly, he met Li Zhirui on the way. Li Zhirui nodded, looked at her, and smiled. It seems that you have gained a lot in these years. Although Li Zhirui is still in the early stage of foundation building, her mana accumulation is heavy. And perhaps she will be able to break through in a few years. Li Zhirui was very pleased to see this. After all, this proved that he did not make a mistake in choosing someone, and that he had a good vision. As for how Li Zhirui's cultivation level improved so quickly, it was naturally related to her desperate efforts. What do you want to talk to me about? Seeing that she did not speak, Li Zhirui had to take the initiative to ask. Li Zhirui said, when I was building my foundation, you, brother Jiu, borrowed 40,000 contribution points from me. Now I am going to repay part of it first. Oh, Li Zhirui suddenly realized that he had forgotten a lot of things during his retreat, and needed reminders from others to remember them. Don't worry, just pay it back slowly. Anyway, the contribution points were not of much use in his hands. Pay back 10,000 contribution points this time, and pay the rest later. Brother Jiu, please remember this account. Li Zhirui had no objection. He took out a jade slip and wrote down the matter. Li Zhirui couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when she saw this. Thank you all for your support. Happy New Year's Day. Chapter 181 Frontline. Judging from the fact that she repaid the contribution points, and it was 10,000 at a time, Li Zhirui is a well-deserved hard-working woman. Although many years have passed, while she was accumulating contribution points, her own cultivation did not stagnate, which is enough to show how hard she worked. Seeing this, Li Zhirui said with a smile, why? You always owe me such a large amount of contribution points, and you feel bad. Although Li Zhirui did not answer, the expression on her face had already told Li Zhirui the answer. He immediately waved his hand and smiled. What's the matter? We are all family, there is no need to be like this. The two walked towards the Internal Affairs Hall and transferred 10,000 contribution points from Li Zhirui's jade card. There is no need to be so anxious about repaying the contribution points. Your own cultivation is more important. Li Zhirui shook his head and did not continue to greet Li Zhirui, but said, I have something else, so I won't talk to you for now. Li Zhirui stood there for a long time before turning around and leaving. As for whether she listened to Li Zhirui's words, only she knew. After they separated, Li Zhirui came to Li Shiking's cave and handed him all the 19 foundation building pills in his hand. So many, Li Shiking said with a look of surprise. Li Zhirui smiled calmly and said, are they a lot? You know, one spiritual medicine can refine up to 10 spiritual pills, and I can only refine 2 or 3 now. Although I am not an alchemist, I know something about alchemy. To refine 10 foundation building pills in one furnace, you must be a 3rd level alchemist. Even ordinary 3rd level alchemists would not have a high chance of success. Li Shiking did not dwell on this matter, and murmured, "With these foundation-building pills, plus the ones I bought before, I don't have to worry about the tribe running out of foundation-building pills for the next 10 or 20 years. By then, after another 30 years, the foundation-building spiritual medicine planted by the Li family will enter the first round of maturity. At that time, there will be no need to worry about the lack of spiritual medicine, but to consider how to deal with the extra foundation-building pills." "When are you going to go out for training?" Li Zhirui said what he had decided. 5 days later, "I will be ready by then and can set off." "Where are you going?" "The battlefield of Shanli Mountain and Yinfeng Cave," Li Zhirui said calmly. Li Shiking was frightened by these words. "You want to go to the front line of the two factions? That is the most dangerous place. Shanli Mountain and Yinfeng Cave are two enemies that have been entangled for many years. Because their strength is almost the same, and large-scale conflicts cannot break out all day long, so the current front battlefield is formed. And this place is known as the meat grinder of the earthly cultivators. There are key training and foundation-building cultivators dying all the time. Do you have to go to this place?" Li Shiking couldn't help but speak, hoping that Li Zhirui could change his mind. "Well, if you want to break through the bottleneck, the easiest way is to experience the area between life and death once, so as to break through the bottleneck. Let Li Zhirui achieve his goal." Seeing Li Zhirui's serious face, Li Shiking could only sigh helplessly. "Take care of yourself." After that, he waved his hand to let Li Zhirui go down. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was the day when Li Zhirui went out. When he left, not many tribesmen knew about it. This was also Li Zhirui's intentional act, which made people confused. "I hope that when I come back next time, I will have broken through the golden elixir," Li Zhirui muttered to himself, which was also a goal. Zhao King soared between heaven and earth, and Li Zhirui used his magic power to fix himself on his back. One man and one eagle flew westward at an incredible speed. "Alice," Li Shiking looked at the black spot that gradually disappeared from his sight and sighed heavily. Li Shilian hurriedly spoke to comfort him. "Don't worry, second brother, Zhirui will definitely come back safely." He also knew that Li Zhirui had broken through the late stage of foundation building for many years, and the retreat some time ago was not for breaking through the late stage of foundation building, but for achieving golden elixir. It's a pity that Li Zhirui failed. So he could only take the risk of going to the battlefield and seek some opportunities in the process of fighting with the enemy. "Go back." Li Shiking didn't want to say anything more, shook his head and turned to leave first. Zhao King flew at full speed and soon arrived at the territory of Guangqing's Hao. More than 10 years have passed, and the mountains and rivers are still the same, but the mark that originally belonged to the Qingjian sect has changed its owner. "Thank you for your hard work." After taking Zhao King back to the space, he prepared to walk to the battlefield on foot, which was also a practice. Because Li Zhirui did not restrain his own breath, he was very calm all the way, and there was no cultivator or monster who was blind enough to deal with him. There was once a second-level monster that stretched out its claws to Li Zhirui without knowing whether to live or die, and then he was killed directly. The speed was so fast that some cultivators who did not give up felt cold in their hearts. They really did not expect that Li Zhirui's strength was so strong that he could easily kill a second-level monster. But in fact, how could it be so easy? The reason why there is such a shocking scene is that Li Zhirui intends to use it to intimidate other cultivators. Now it seems that the effect is quite good, at least there are not so many cultivators at the beginning. Do it. A group of cultivators took advantage of Li Zhirui's just finished fighting and his mana had not yet recovered, and immediately attacked. Several spiritual lights hit Li Zhirui like meteors. The speed was so fast that he could not dodge, so he could only activate the defensive magic weapon and prepare to withstand this wave of attacks. Previously, Li Zhirui's defensive magic weapon Shui Unzu was broken. He originally didn't want to buy a second-level magic weapon. After all, at that time, he was thinking about breaking through the golden elixir, and it was also very likely. But he didn't break through, and he had to go out for training. So before going out, Li Zhirui had to use his contribution points to exchange for a pretty good defensive magic weapon. Want to take advantage of someone's misfortune? Then let me see if you have the ability. Li Zhirui snorted coldly. His hands flew, and huge vines rose up from the ground in front of him. Finally, under his control, they turned into a giant green dragon, much larger than the ice dragon he had controlled before. And according to the nature of the vines, the dragon will also be different. For example, if it is a thorn vine, it will be a thorn dragon with powerful attack power. The dragon took off into the air, and vines grew out of its body, rushing towards the monks at a very fast speed. Two monks who did not react quickly enough were directly pierced by the vines, and then under the horrified eyes of others, the bodies of the two were like snowmen exposed to the sun, melting very quickly. Seeing this, the remaining few people did not dare to say anything about revenge for their companions, and fled away in panic. Chapter 182 by Li. Li Zhirui frowned as he watched them flee. It was not that he did not want to chase them, but that they were too scattered and there were many cultivators nearby. Excessive consumption of mana might put him in danger. However, Li Zhirui's ruthless methods also frightened them, and no one dared to show up for a while. In this way, Li Zhirui encountered several attacks by monsters and ambushes by cultivators. He stopped and walked along the way. When he arrived at the front line of the battle between Shanli Mountain and Yinfeng Cave, it was already several months later. On the border of Shanli Mountain, there are a total of 5 large immortal cities and more than a dozen small immortal cities, forming a long line of defense to resist the invasion of Yinfeng Cave's demon cultivators. Of course, this can only resist large-scale demon cultivators. Occasionally, a few demon cultivators will secretly cross the line of defense and run to the territory of Shanli Mountain to burn, kill, loot, collect various materials, or spread evil cultivation techniques. Like the evil cultivators that Li Zhirui had caught before, they were bewitched and corrupted by demon cultivators. Li Zhirui chose Nanshan Immortal City, one of the 5 major immortal cities. The reason for choosing this place is that the battle outside Nanshan Immortal City is the most intense, which is suitable for him to break through the bottleneck. As the front line to defend against Yinfeng Cave, Nanshan Immortal City has no entrance fee, but there is a 3rd-level treasure mirror hanging on the tower to identify demon cultivators and evil cultivators. The moment he entered Nanshan Immortal City, a murderous aura came over him, making Li Zhirui's hair stand on end and his whole body in a tense state. There was also a faint, but lingering, omnipresent smell of blood. This is because this city, which has stood in the wilderness for more than 1,000 years, has witnessed the deaths of countless cultivators and demon cultivators, and their blood has long invaded every corner of the city. Even the spiritual energy in the city is stained with a trace of blood. If it were not for the special arrangement of the pure spirit formation, the cultivators would not dare to absorb the spiritual energy in the city to practice. Is this your first time to Nanshan Immortal City? A voice suddenly sounded in Li Zhirui's ears. Li Zhirui looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the person was a handsome male cultivator in white. He was also in the late stage of foundation building. How did you know that? Li Zhirui did not deny it, but asked curiously. Because only cultivators who come here for the first time will be shocked by the fairy city, and those old people have long been accustomed to it, the white-clothed male cultivator introduced with a smile. I am Bai Li, and I am honored to meet you. Wang Xiaoming meets you. Li Zhirui returned the greeting. In order not to bring trouble to the family, he gave himself a fake name. Not only that, he also changed his appearance. As long as Da Qing and Xiao Qing were not summoned, it would be almost impossible to discover his true identity. If fellow Taoist Wang wants to learn about Nanshan Immortal City, I can introduce it to you in a friendly way. Seeing that Li Zhirui's eyes were full of scrutiny, Bai Li chuckled and said, the reason I'm so enthusiastic is that I want to invite you to join our demon hunting team. The demon cultivators are cunning and their methods are unpredictable. For the sake of safety, many fellow Taoists will join forces to go out and kill demon cultivators. Over time, demon hunting teams have become a common practice in various immortal cities, Bai Li said with anticipation on his face. Cultivators like you who are in the late stage of foundation building are the ones that all demon hunting teams want to recruit the most. Now that I'm one step ahead of others, I naturally have to do everything I can to invite you to join my team. Li Zhirui suddenly realized, but did not immediately agree to the other party. Instead, he said, I'm new here, and I don't know much about the surrounding situation, so I have no plans to join the team for the time being. He originally planned to understand the situation first, and he wouldn't be in a hurry to find the demon cultivators as soon as he arrived. Okay then, Bai Li was not too surprised, but his face was still full of disappointment. He took out a communication talisman from his storage bag and said, if you are interested, you can contact me with a communication talisman. The Bai Li team is looking forward to your joining. Okay. Seeing Li Zhirui nodded in agreement, Bai Li did not continue to pester him and turned to walk into the city. While it was still early, Li Zhirui prepared to walk around the fairy city to see if the situation in the fairy city was the same as what he knew. The fairy city is very large and is inhabited by a large number of cultivators. Unlike the fairy cities and markets in other places, the foundation building cultivators occupy the majority in Nanshan Fairy City and the other 4 fairy cities. As for the key training cultivators, they all serve as waiters and errands in the city. After all, this place is dangerous, and few key training cultivators dare to come to the front line, so the number is not large. Apart from that, there is nothing much to say. It is no different from other fairy cities. After a quick look at the fairy city, Li Zhirui casually walked into an inn and learned a lot of news from the waiter. For example, by killing the demon cultivators, you can accumulate points and exchange them for spiritual objects, including precious spiritual objects such as foundation building pills, and even a few third-level spiritual objects. However, generally few cultivators exchange third-level spiritual objects, because they are not only very expensive, but also cannot be used by foundation building cultivators. As for giant cultivators, they don't need to go to such places to obtain spiritual objects. However, Li Zhirui is quite interested in one of the third-level spiritual objects, and if there is a chance, he will get it. After all, the purpose of his trip is to break through the bottleneck and impact the giant, and points and spiritual objects are secondary. By the way, Senior may not know that every once in a while, the demon cultivators will attack the fairy city, or the fairy city will organize the cultivators to take the initiative to attack, the guy suddenly said. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows and said, "Why is this? It is said that they want to occupy the other party's territory, but for some reason, he always felt that this reason was not very reliable. If they want to expand their territory, then the defense line must be pushed forward, otherwise it will not be able to hold it at all. But how can it be so easy to build a suitable and solid defense line? It was unknown how much manpower and material resources would be spent, and they had to be on guard against the other party's disruption and destruction. Have you heard of the Bailey team?" This matter had nothing to do with Li Zhirui, so he was too lazy to delve into it and asked about another matter instead. The waiter's face was full of envy, and he said, "Senior, this team is very famous in the Immortal City. The members are either in the late stage of foundation building or have special skills. Because of their strong strength, every time they go out to kill demon cultivators, they can return safely and gain a lot." In addition, the waiter also introduced several members of the Bailey team, among which the Captain Bailey was naturally indispensable. In his words, Bailey was proficient in swordsmanship and very powerful, and it seemed that he was not far from the Golden Core realm. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows. He really didn't expect the Bailey team to be so powerful and famous. He could tell everything clearly by just asking any waiter. But this also made him a little confused. The Bailey team was so powerful, why did they invite him? There are many cultivators in the late stage of foundation building in Nanshan Immortal City. There is no need to invite him to join at the first sight, right? After thinking about it, I couldn't figure it out. I had to put it aside for the time being, gave him some spirit stones and sent him away, and prepared to have a good rest for the night. Thank you for your support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Proposal. Fellow Taoist Wang, have you considered it? Bai Li looked at Li Zhirui, who suddenly came to visit this morning, and asked with a smile on his face. I have considered it. If you don't mind, I am willing to join your team. Li Zhirui is never a person who drags his feet. He thought about it for a while last night and decided to join Bai Li's team, so he activated the communication talisman early this morning and came to the door. Since the other party can become famous in Nanshan Xiansheng, he must have real skills and does not have the bad habit of harming teammates. The latter can guarantee his safety and interests, and the former can increase his income on the premise of ensuring safety, so why not? Okay. Welcome to join us. Bai Li smiled brightly and said, we will gather together this afternoon to discuss the plan of hunting demon cultivators tomorrow. I will introduce you to those fellow Taoists then. Okay. Li Zhirui nodded, and then said, I will go buy some spiritual objects first, and I will come back in the afternoon. Bai Li stood up to see him off, muttering to himself, now there is another powerful foundation building cultivator. Maybe it's time to try that thing. No one knows that the reason why Bai Li was able to build a famous team is because of his pair of wisdom eyes. That is a kind of talent of his, which can roughly feel the strength of cultivators of similar realms. And when he saw Li Zhirui for the first time, he knew that the other party's strength was not inferior to his, so he showed so much enthusiasm. You know, Bai's team has only 7 people so far. Compared with other teams, the number of people is definitely small. This is also a major reason why they are famous in the fairy city, but relying on these 7 people, they have made a great reputation, because everyone's strength is very strong. At this time, Li Zhirui had no idea that his strength had been seen through. He was now busy buying some necessary spiritual objects, the most important of which were various talismans. But before that, he needed to find a shop to sell the 2 foundation building pills in his hand. He had been in seclusion for so many years, and the spiritual stones he had accumulated were almost used up. After all, spiritual stones are indispensable for the birth of spiritual medicines. Over time, the consumption of spiritual stones is not ordinary. As for the shop selling foundation building pills, he found out when he was strolling around yesterday. It was a shop that specialized in holding auctions. I wonder if the senior is going to participate in the auction this afternoon, or if you have something to send for auction. As soon as Li Zhirui stepped into the shop, a clerk came up to greet him enthusiastically. Send spiritual objects for auction, please follow me, senior. The clerk quickly led Li Zhirui to a compartment. There is an appraiser inside. He will determine the authenticity and price of the spiritual objects in the senior's hand, the clerk explained, and after Li Zhirui walked in, he closed the door and stood quietly at the door waiting. What spiritual item do you want to auction? The appraiser was a white-bearded old man, who asked casually with his eyelids drooping. 1 water-refined foundation building pill. The reason for selling only 1 foundation building pill was simple. He was short of spiritual stones and needed to earn spiritual stones quickly. The foundation building pill was the best choice. But doing so was equivalent to selling the foundation building pill at a low price. Li Zhirui naturally couldn't sell both of them. Hearing this, the appraiser became a little more energetic and no longer so lazy. He said, please take it out for me to see. Li Zhirui flipped his hand and took out a small jade bottle and handed it to the appraiser. He watched him perform various spells to identify the authenticity of the foundation building pill. After a moment, the appraiser smiled and nodded, saying, it is indeed a water-refined foundation building pill, but the quality is a bit poor. This was indeed the case, but he said this just to lower the price or charge more auction fees. Dao, why do you lie? Li Zhirui said with some dissatisfaction. The grade of this foundation building pill is not bad, and this is a water-refined pill, so the pill poison is naturally less than that of a fire-refined pill. A gleam of light flashed in the appraiser's eyes. He originally thought that this foundation building pill was obtained by Li Zhirui accidentally, and he was a casual cultivator and didn't know much about spiritual pills. But now it seems that his expectation was wrong. The other party either made preparations long ago, or he was an alchemist, and even this foundation building pill was made by him. Dao, how much do you think this foundation building pill can sell for at most? Li Zhirui opened his mouth and set the price of the foundation building pill very high. 80,000 spiritual stones. Impossible. It's too expensive. Even if it's a water-refined foundation building pill, it can't be priced so high. The appraiser shook his head repeatedly. After the two bargained, the price of the foundation building pill was finally set at 65,000 spiritual stones. As for how many spiritual stones they can get from the auction of the foundation building pill, it has nothing to do with Li Zhirui. After having enough spiritual stones in his hands, Li Zhirui began to buy a lot, mainly various spiritual talismans and spiritual medicines, and he could also see a few precious first and second order spiritual seeds. Time flew by and it was already afternoon. Li Zhirui walked quickly into Bai's room and found that there were already several cultivators inside, and all of them were in the late stage of foundation building. Wang Xiaoming greets all Taoist friends. Li Zhirui was the first to bow his head and greet. Others stood up to return the greetings and introduced themselves, with a lukewarm attitude, and there was a trace of scrutiny in their eyes when they looked at Li Zhirui. Although they knew that Bai's vision was extremely high, they still had doubts in their hearts. After all, cultivation and strength were two different things. Not long after, the remaining two cultivators also came, and their cultivation was only in the middle stage of foundation building. It seemed that they should have some special skills. Everyone is here, so I will start by saying the first thing. Welcome to the new member Wang Xiaoming. Everyone applauded politely to welcome him, but it was too early to say that they would accept him. At least they had to wait until everyone acted together once and saw his strength with their own eyes before they would truly accept him as a member of the team. For example, the new member would lose some of his interests, and the old members would be dissatisfied with this, or even have conflicts. This did not happen. Because in this area, interests are not the most important thing. The most important thing is personal safety. If Li Zhirui is really strong, then his joining is a good thing for others. After all, their strength has been enhanced, and their safety has naturally improved. The second thing is to discuss tomorrow's action plan, Bai Li said with a serious face. Because of the addition of fellow Taoist Wang, everyone has never cooperated before, so after leaving the city tomorrow, the first action will be based on stability. The main purpose of doing this is to cultivate everyone's tacit understanding, so that we can cooperate better in the future and kill more demon cultivators. This is a good proposal. For the sake of their own lives, no one naturally spoke up to object. Chapter 184 Attack. Let's go. After everyone discussed yesterday afternoon, they went back to rest and agreed to gather at the west gate at noon today. As the last person arrived, the team leader Bai Li immediately announced the departure. Bai Li sacrificed a spirit ship, and several people flew onto the spirit ship. Then, under Li Zhirui's surprised eyes, the spirit ship slowly hid. Ho ha ho ha! Seeing Li Zhirui's surprise, Bai Li on the side smiled and explained, "My spirit ship has a special restriction that can blend into the surrounding environment." Awesome, Li Zhirui said sincerely. At the same time, he also had a little curiosity about Bai Li's identity. With a precious and restricted magic weapon now, ordinary foundation building casual cultivators have no chance to get it, because Li Zhirui felt that if he was a Jinden's Henren, he would also want to take down this spirit ship. If nothing unexpected happened, the other party should be from a big force, but just hiding his identity. It's just that I don't know whether Bai Li is just for experience or for other purposes. Of course, Li Zhirui did not speak out his speculations. Like everyone else, he sat quietly on the boat after saying that, waiting for the right time to make a move. Is the Bai Li team out again? A casual cultivator said with envy. It must be said that the Bai Li team is indeed quite famous. As soon as they left the city gate, they were discovered by some cultivators. How many demon cultivators can they kill this time? I heard that they brought back more than a dozen corpses of foundation building demon cultivators last time. I think this time it won't be much different. These casual cultivators were full of envy, because these foundation building demon cultivators alone had thousands of contribution points, which was much higher than what they had gained. But did you notice that the Bai Li team has one more member? A casual cultivator said abruptly. Everyone recalled for a moment, and suddenly found that the Bai Li team, which usually only had 7 people, had an unfamiliar face today. They said, "Yes. Who is that person? He can actually join the Bai Li team." Li Zhirui had just arrived in Nanshan Xianchang for 2 days, so these cultivators naturally couldn't know him, and at this time, he knew nothing about the discussions and explorations among the casual cultivators. Because they soon encountered a group of demon cultivators moving on the battlefield, looking for prey. The cultivators regarded the demon cultivators as prey, and vice versa. In the eyes of the demon cultivators, the cultivators were even better materials. They were more keen to hunt the cultivators. At that time, no matter whether it was skin, flesh, etc., they could make a lot of money. There are a total of 9 foundation building demon cultivators, 3 of whom are in the late stage, 5 in the middle stage, and 1 in the early stage, but, Bai Li frowned. He felt that the other party's situation seemed a little bit wrong. You know, demon cultivators respect strength. In the past, the demon cultivator in the early stage of foundation building was definitely a bait and a trap, but now it is different. The other party is actually protected by everyone. It's like a young man in the mortal world going out, with a group of attendants and guards following closely, carefully protecting him. Ruhan, the only female cultivator among the 9, said softly. In this case, the other party's status in Yinfang Cave is probably not low, and there may be a giant and blood relative behind him. Everyone hesitated. The other party must have a life-saving spiritual object in his hand, which is likely to allow him to escape. More importantly, there is a Jindan standing behind him. If they kill him, what if the demon cultivator Jindan does not stop fighting? Although the emotions of demon cultivators are weak, who can guarantee that there will be no accidents? Can't leave, Li Zhirui suddenly said. Because the other party has discovered their existence. Although Li's spirit ship is different from ordinary ones, it is not flawless, and the other party either has treasures in his hands, or has some capable people. In his sight, the other party suddenly gathered and offered a black banner that made people feel dizzy. For a while, the black light was strong and shot straight towards where they were. Li Zhirui was the first to discover their attack, so his reaction speed was naturally the fastest. So when he saw the attack coming, he cast a spell instantly, summoning a water shield out of thin air to block the black light. Although he was not good at defensive spells, that was compared to offensive spells. In fact, he was still somewhat talented in spells, so the power of his spells was not too bad. Go. Since the other party had taken the initiative to attack, they would not worry too much. It was just a giant and blood relative, so they would not flee at the first sign of trouble. As soon as they started, Li Zhirui understood the composition of this team. One of the two mid-stage foundation building masters was proficient in formations and set up a trap formation in a blink of an eye. This ability was much stronger than Li Zhirui. The other one was good at various auxiliary spells, and combined with the spells of others, the power could be greatly enhanced. For casual cultivators, there are very few cultivators who specialize in auxiliary spells. It is not an exaggeration to say that they are rare, because this kind of cultivator must cooperate with others. If they are alone, they have no combat power at all. As for the other 5 people, Li's attack is very sharp and powerful, and the other 4 also have their own division of labor. Some are good at defense, and some are proficient in entanglement and interference. Cooperating with each other, the strength they exert is far beyond various single-handed fights. However, it is precisely because they are too tacit that Li Zhirui, who has just joined the team, is somewhat restrained, fearing that his attack will interfere with them. There is no way. Li Zhirui had to choose a peripheral demon cultivator and fight with the opponent alone. Get out. The demon cultivator was only in the middle stage of foundation building. Seeing Li Zhirui looking for him, he was very uneasy. After a fight, he was even more terrified. Because he found that he had no power to resist at all. Under Li Zhirui's fierce attack, he fell into a very dangerous situation in just a moment. His hair was messy, his robes were broken, and even the 100 Ghosts banner in his hand had no more evil spirits to use. On the other hand, Li Zhirui was very relaxed, as if he had not used all his strength. He only used the wood dragon technique to force the opponent into a desperate situation. Bang! The strong will to survive made the demon cultivator explode the 100 Ghosts banner in his hand that had been sacrificed for many years like a lizard that had cut off its tail to survive. The powerful and terrifying impact force directly blew the wooden dragon into pieces, and then he took the opportunity to burn his blood and escape into the distance. This is one of the reasons why the demon cultivators are very difficult to deal with. They have various secret methods of escape. Even if they will pay a very tragic price, there may be a chance to make up for it afterwards. On the other hand, although the cultivators also have various secret methods, the price they pay is not small, but because they can't find a way to make up for it, or they are hidden by a big force, few cultivators use them. Chapter 185, Enemy. Of course, even if he could escape back to the sect, he would inevitably be punished, or even die, but at least there was still a glimmer of hope to survive. If he stayed, it would definitely be a dead end. But he underestimated Li Zhirui's strength. When he self-destructed the magic weapon, Li Zhirui knew that he wanted to escape, and immediately arranged a circle of spiritual seeds around him. As soon as he moved, countless vines rose from the ground, forming a cage, giving him no chance to escape. Seeing that he had no chance to escape, the string in his head broke instantly. Regardless, he launched an attack with a crazy face, as if doing so would allow him to escape. Seeing this, Li Zhirui did not torture him anymore. He immediately took out a vine with sharp thorns, came silently behind him, and stabbed it hard into his heart, ending his life. After dealing with one demon cultivator, he did not look for other demon cultivators, but guarded the periphery to prevent the demon cultivators from escaping, and at the same time observed the situation nearby to prevent the demon cultivators from suddenly arriving. At the same time, Li Zhirui was also observing Li and others, looking at their strength and common methods, and then deducing in his mind how he should join this system. After all, they belonged to the same team for a period of time in the future. If he was isolated like now, once he encountered a powerful magic team, Li Zhirui would definitely suffer the most, and even become a breakthrough for the magic cultivators. As he observed, he gradually determined his position in the team, That is, a person who goes wherever he is needed. Because in terms of combat power alone, he is not as good as Bai Li, and in spells such as control and defense, he is not as good as the two cultivators who are proficient in this way. But it is not without benefits, because he knows a little bit of everything, so he can be used as a panacea. But the specifics still need to be discussed with Bai Li and others before making a decision. As for tacit understanding, this kind of thing cannot be cultivated in a short time, and can only be done step by step. While Li Zhirui was thinking, the other people had easily killed all the magic cultivators present, leaving only the magic cultivator with a background in the early stage of foundation building. Let me go quickly, or you will not have a good result. Even though he fell into the hands of the monk, he still did not change his previous arrogance, as if he was sure that the monk would not dare to attack him. Humph. At this point, you still can't recognize the current situation, Bai Li said with a sneer. He kept this man alive just to try and see if he could get some information from the inside of the demon cultivator from him. But since he kept his mouth shut and didn't want to talk, there was no point in keeping him alive. Bai Li moved his right hand and stabbed the demon cultivator in the chest with a very fast attack. Clang. A sound of metal and stone colliding sounded, and a faint spiritual light rose quickly, protecting the demon cultivator. Not good. Far away in the depths of the Yinfeng Cave mountain gate, a white-bearded old man suddenly raised his head and looked towards the east. Why is Xiaoming's magic weapon activated? In fact, there was no need for others to answer. He already had the answer in his heart, which was nothing more than that his grandson was in danger. If it were anyone else, they would have given up, but Xiaoming was sent by his parents before they died, and he was also his only descendant of blood. In addition, he had good qualifications, so he was naturally valued. He couldn't just stand by and watch him die, even though he knew that he couldn't save him even if he rushed over now. Through the hidden hand he left for Xiaoming, he determined Xiaoming's location and flew out in a hurry. Quick! Everyone, work together to break this defense shield, otherwise when the giant and demon cultivator comes, none of us will be able to escape. Bai Li was stunned, as if he didn't expect such an accident to happen, and hurriedly said, "They can leave early, but what will they do in the future?" This demon cultivator remembered their appearance. When they talked to the giant and demon cultivator, they might not dare to leave the fairy city easily in the future. When everyone thought of this, they all took out their own special skills, and the crazy firepower was overwhelming, drowning the tiny demon cultivator. And the magic weapon that protected him, under the continuous attack of Li Zhirui and others, finally couldn't bear the pressure and broke into pieces. Not good. Jinden, who was rushing on his way at his fastest speed, suddenly changed his face. He had just lost contact with a life-saving magic weapon. "Let me go." The demon cultivator showed a trace of panic on his face, and his voice was trembling. It seemed that he had seen clearly what his situation was. He said anxiously, "What do you want to know? What do you want? As long as you are willing to let me go, I can give you anything, no need any more." The moment the defensive magic weapon was broken, or in other words, when the defensive magic weapon appeared, it meant that he would not live long. And they had to hurry to clean up the battlefield and leave this place, so as not to run into the giant and cultivator. And at the moment of his death, the giant and demon cultivator instantly felt it, because the life card in his hand was broken. Damn it! Damn it! All the cultivators deserve to die. I must find the murderer and let them pay for Xiaoming's life. When venting, he did not stop, and even moved faster. Let's go! The battlefield was blown to pieces by several wild wind talismans, and their breath was also blown away. After collecting the bodies and storage bags of the demon cultivators, the group hurriedly ended this outing and returned to Nanshan Immortal City. What they didn't know was that less than a quarter of an hour after they left, the demon cultivator Jinden arrived. Looking at his grandson who had turned into a pool of ashes, he fell into boundless anger, and the surrounding terrain changed under his anger. For the sake of caution, don't go out in the next few days. As for the next outing, let's talk about it later. At this time, on the spirit ship, Bai Li said with a serious expression. Among the demon cultivators, if there is a giant who pays special attention to low-level cultivators, it can be divided into three situations. The first is the selected disciples and successors, the second is the blood relatives, and the third is the cultivated insects. In fact, the first type is not so important to some giant and demon cultivators. If they die, they die. At most, they can cultivate a new one. The third situation is the most serious, because the cultivation of poisonous insects is very rare. Not only does it require a lot of resources, but it also requires finding the right person. Li didn't dare to bet that the demon cultivator was in that situation, so it's better to be cautious. Li Zhirui didn't expect that he would be forced to rest less than a day after joining the team. However, his previous performance was recognized by everyone, and now the eyes looking at him no longer have the initial scrutiny. As for the income from this outing, it was not bad. In addition to the contribution value, he also got a lot of spirit stones. Thank you for your support. Chapter 186 Consideration. After Li Zhirui returned to the Immortal City, he stayed in the rented cave for more than half a month before receiving a message from Li, saying that they would gather at the city gate tomorrow to continue hunting the demon cultivators. It's been so long, and I haven't heard of any major movement from the demon cultivators. It seems that the giant demon cultivator doesn't care much about his bloodline, Li Zhirui whispered to himself. The next morning, everyone gathered together and boarded the spirit ship again, flying towards the Eclipse Wind State. Although I haven't heard of any major movement from the demon cultivators these days, it's better to be cautious, Li said, so we shouldn't go too deep into the front line for the time being, and find out the situation first, okay? Although it would lead to a reduction in income, everyone was cautious and naturally had no objection. In the following period of time, Li Zhirui and his group were very careful, never going deep into the Eclipse Wind State, and every time they caught a demon cultivator, they would leave a few alive and ask them if they knew any relevant information. Yes, there is a 3 Ghosts immortal who issued a bounty some time ago. The bounty is very generous. He said that he wanted to find the cultivator who killed his grandson. Every demon cultivator would say something similar. And this sentence also made Li Zhirui and others more cautious, not daring to reveal that they were the murderer. Until 2 months later. It seems that the golden elixir has given up the search, one of the cultivators laughed easily. They learned from the mouths of several demon cultivators they had just captured that the 3 Ghosts immortal had withdrawn the bounty because they did not find any clues. The sword that had been hanging in everyone's heart has finally dissipated. But this is also as it should be. After all, when they solved the demon cultivator, no one except them saw it. In order not to expose this secret, they did not even hand in his body to exchange for contribution points. In this way, we don't have to be tied up anymore. We only kill a few demon cultivators each time and then return to the fairy city, another person also sighed. You know, before this, every time they went out, they would stay in the wilderness for at least half a month to a month, but now, they have to return to the fairy city in just a few days. Starting today, they can return to the previous situation. After all, as casual cultivators, they need to obtain the resources needed for cultivation by themselves. There are too few demon cultivators killed, which seriously affects their income. As the captain, Li, after thinking for a moment, nodded slowly and said, since everyone thinks so, then we are not so anxious to go back this time, but we still have to be careful. After all, no one can be sure whether that giant is deliberately confusing us, maybe it was luck, or maybe it was coincidence. They soon encountered a group of hidden demon cultivators. This has to be said about Li, who is not only powerful, but also who has practiced a secret method of pupil technique. Unless it is a demon cultivator who is extremely proficient in concealment, it is impossible to hide from his sharp eyes. This team can gain so much every time, in addition to its own strong strength, but also because Li can detect the enemy in advance. After discovering the demon cultivators, everyone quickly prepared for the battle. Li Zhirui and another cultivator took the lead to prevent the demon cultivators from being too scattered, so that the formation master could not set up the formation and trap everyone. Dense vines emerged from the ground and entangled the legs of the demon cultivators. At the same time, there were thick vines trying to completely restrain the demon cultivators. In addition, there were thick earth walls that condensed to trap all the demon cultivators in a small space. Li Zhirui and the other 2 attacked too suddenly and quickly. The demon cultivators did not react at all, and did not expect that they were ambushed. When they came to their senses, they found that they were trapped. They could only attack desperately to escape. The vines were cut off and cracks began to appear on the earth wall. The formation is set up, but when they escaped, they heard this sentence that made them fall into deeper despair. This routine is the Bailey team. There were bursts of exclamations from the demon cultivators, and their originally firm expressions began to waver, and a trace of uneasiness emerged. Isn't it true that no one in the Bailey team is good at wood magic? Li Zhirui has become accustomed to this situation in the past 2 months. The reputation of the Bailey team is not limited to cultivators, but also widely spread among demon cultivators. In particular, some demon cultivators with a weaker strength are most afraid of encountering the Bailey team and the famous teams in other immortal cities. As for Li Zhirui, he has just joined the team not long ago, and most demon cultivators don't know him. But even if he is not counted, the original cultivators in the team are enough to kill them easily. Li Zhirui saw that the formation was set up, and the spell in his hand changed. The vines that were originally entangled suddenly became several times larger, and the color became black, looking extremely ferocious. The vines swung wildly in the formation, and the bursts of breaking air that came out were enough to show their powerful destructive power. Some demon cultivators who underestimated it have been seriously injured and lay on the ground wailing in pain. With everyone working together, after a while, all these demon cultivators were killed. Every time I see Daoyao's magic, I can't help but be amazed, Bai Li said to Li Zhirui with a smile. Another person also echoed with a smile, yes, we never thought that the wood magic, which is the weakest in everyone's mouth, would become so powerful in Daoyao's hands. It's just with the help of some external objects, not worth mentioning, Li Zhirui said modestly. Of course, this is also a fact in a sense. After all, these vines cannot be generated out of thin air. They are all spiritual vines that Li Zhirui has carefully cultivated. Let's clean up the battlefield first. The movement just now is not small. It is very likely to attract some monks and demons who want to pick up the leaks. Li Zhirui didn't want to focus on himself, so he said immediately. Bai Li smiled and glanced at him, and didn't say anything more. He turned around and started to collect the spoils with others. Time always flies by inadvertently. In a blink of an eye, more than 3 months have passed. Li Zhirui's brow was filled with a trace of sorrow. He went out this time in order to break through the bottleneck and impact the golden elixir, but after more than half a year, his bottleneck has become extremely solid, without any signs of loosening. Although this is a very normal phenomenon, there are many people who are trapped by the bottleneck for 10 or even dozens of years. Moreover, he has not encountered any battles that make him feel dangerous during this period of time. This is mainly because the strength of the Bailey team is too strong. Most of the magic cultivators are simply not their opponents and there is no danger at all. How can Li Zhirui gain insights from the life and death crisis? So Li Zhirui is now considering whether he should quit the Bailey team and wander alone on the battlefield, putting himself in danger and forcing himself to break through the bottleneck. Thanks to the Buck Friend 201908150908596991 for the reward. Thank you for your support. Chapter 187 Exploration. But before Li Zhirui could come up with a conclusion, Bai Li suddenly sent a message saying that he had something very important to discuss with everyone. Li Zhirui arrived at his cave on time. The others had already arrived, and he was the last to arrive. Since everyone is here, I will not hide it from you anymore. Bai Li activated the formation, looking very careful, and said, I believe you have guessed that I am not a casual cultivator. I come from a giant family in the north. The reason I came here is to find a secret realm that I don't know if it has been opened. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. They had been mentally prepared for the previous words. They guessed that Bai Li had an extraordinary background and didn't feel that surprised. But after he said his purpose, which turned out to be a secret realm, everyone, including Li Zhirui, couldn't remain calm. Daoyao, are you serious? Is there really a secret realm on the battlefield? One person asked impatiently. Bai Li nodded. This secret realm was discovered by an ancestor of my family, but when he saw it, it happened to be the strange phenomenon of the secret realm disappearing. He failed to enter it, and after returning to the family, he recorded the incident, hoping that we, the younger generations, would have the opportunity to enter this secret realm, and my goal is to determine the specific location of this secret realm and explore whether it is possible to be born. Everyone seemed to be poured with a bucket of cold water, and calmed down instantly. What does this have to do with us? This sentence expressed the thoughts of most people. They were so excited before because they thought that if the secret realm was opened, they would also have the opportunity to enter and share a piece of the pie. But in fact, it was not the case. Even Bai Li didn't know when the secret realm would be opened, or even whether it could be opened. Of course, after I have explored it clearly, I will leave this place and return to the family. Before that, I will give the harvest I have accumulated in the past 1 or 2 years to the Taoist friends who have helped me. You know, Bailei's collection during this period is not less than the harvest of entering the secret realm once. Dao, where's the location of the secret realm? Li Zhirui suddenly asked. He had a vague guess in his heart that the location of the secret realm might not be a good place. It's near the demon cultivation immortal city. Of course, it was impossible to tell the specific location. Sure enough, if the location of the secret realm is safe, there is no need for their help at all. Just go and take a look. I wonder if there are any Taoist friends willing to go with me to find the secret realm, Bailey asked. I am willing. Based on their trust in Bailey, several cultivators nodded without hesitation and agreed to go with him. Li Zhirui thought about it in his heart and nodded to agree to this matter. It was not for his contribution points, but because they were closer to the demon cultivation, it was easy to have conflicts, which was exactly what he wanted. In the end, he found that no one in Bailey's team quit, and all of them were willing to explore with Bailey. Okay. Thank you all for your great help. I will definitely not treat you unfairly. At that time, Bailey was overjoyed when he saw this. He originally thought that only 5 or 6 people were willing to follow him. But he didn't expect that all of them agreed. In that case, let's meet at the old place tomorrow. I'll take you there, Bailey said cheerfully. The next morning, everyone was waiting here early. After Bailey arrived, he didn't say any more nonsense and immediately led everyone to fly towards the secret place. Do you think it's better to ignore the demon cultivators you meet on the road, or to kill them, after flying a distance and entering the battlefield? Bailey asked. Let's do it. Although it will take longer to travel, these demon cultivators are all contributions, so, everyone was no longer just rushing on the road. When they met demon cultivators on the road, they would stop and kill them before setting off. However, as they got closer to Eclipse Wind State, Li Zhirui and others rarely took action, because there were too many demon cultivators nearby. If they took action, it would likely cause a large number of demon cultivators to besiege them. Even if they were powerful, it was impossible for them to escape safely among hundreds of demon cultivators. Among them, Bailey had the hardest time, because he had to control the spirit ship and maintain the high level of invisibility of the spirit ship. But no one could help with these 2 points. In this way, they walked and stopped along the way. When they arrived at the destination, 10 days had passed. Dao, are you sure you didn't remember the location wrong? Someone asked curiously, looking at the desolate environment around. Bailey shook his head affirmatively and further looked for more obvious clues. This time it didn't take much time and he found it in a moment. A crack appeared on the mountain. Is it possible that a secret realm has emerged? One person asked with expectation. Although they knew nothing about the situation of this secret realm, it did not prevent them from yearning for it and looking forward to it. No, Bailey's tone could not hide his loneliness. After hearing this, the others didn't say anything more, and the spirit ship became very quiet for a while. It's going to get dark soon. Let's find a place to rest for a night and leave tomorrow, Li Zhirui said. Although the spirit ship can be invisible, it is still quite obvious at night and is not suitable for traveling overnight. Dao Wang is right. Everyone found a hidden corner, set up a hidden door, and everyone went to do their own things. But no one noticed that a faint spiritual light suddenly flickered in the gap. 2 flowers bloom, each showing its own beauty. Have you found the monk who killed my grandson? Asked the 3 ghosts in the gate of Yinfeng Cave. Reporting to the master, I am incompetent and can only find a few possible murderers, the foundation building monk said tremblingly, fearing that the 3 ghosts would punish him for this. The 3 ghosts frowned slightly. Did the other party do it so perfectly? More than half a year has passed, and there is still no clue. Tell me about it. The first one is a monk team named Hongyu. On that day, they left the fairy city. The third one is the most famous monk team in Nanshan Fairy City, the Bailey team. They also left the fairy city that day. Since we can't be sure, kill them all and commemorate my poor grandson, the 3 ghosts said murderously. The foundation building monk hurriedly reported the locations of these teams, but the location of the Bailey team was the only one missing. Seeing the 3 ghosts looking at him, the foundation establishment demon cultivator trembled all over and said quickly, Bailey's team is now on the battlefield. I will definitely find him. I hope you can give me some more time. Okay, the 3 ghosts nodded. I hope you won't let me down, otherwise you know the consequences. After that, he turned into a shadow and disappeared, apparently going to seek revenge. Chapter 188 Weird. I don't know why the senior wants to attack us. But what have I done to offend the senior? Hong Yu looked at the 3 demon cultivators in front of him calmly, but his slightly trembling voice was enough to show his inner uneasiness. The 3 ghosts transformed into the appearance of a cultivator and asked, "Have you ever seen my grandson?" "No, we haven't seen him." A certain foundation-building cultivator shook his head repeatedly, hoping that this would save his life. Unfortunately, they forgot that the 3 ghosts were not only a grandfather, but also a brutal giant and demon cultivator. How could he let them go easily? "In this case, you are useless." The 3 ghosts waved their hands, and several evil ghosts flew out from their sleeves and sank into the bodies of everyone. The speed was so fast that people had no time to take countermeasures. After a breath, everyone fell to the ground. If they hadn't stopped breathing, others would have thought they were just unconscious. The 3 ghosts collected the bodies and turned to fly to another team. Another round of questioning, but nothing was gained. Of the 3 suspects, only the Bailey team, whose whereabouts were unknown, was left. Looking at the foundation-building disciple kneeling in front of him, trembling all over, the 3 ghosts said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. You are allowed to gather other disciples. If you still haven't found their whereabouts after 3 days, you don't have to come back." "Yes, I will definitely live up to your trust." The foundation-building disciple trembled all over and promised hurriedly. Speaking of which, the reason why the demon cultivator couldn't find the trace of Bailey and others had a lot to do with Li Zhirui. It was because of his wood magic that interfered with the judgment of the demon cultivator, causing him to not find the Bailey team until now. It's time to go back to Nanshan Fairy City, in the valley. After the sky brightened, Bailey's eyebrows could not hide the disappointment. Although others were a little unwilling, they didn't feel so uncomfortable when they thought about getting the contribution points and spiritual objects in Bailey's hands. "Wait," Li Zhirui suddenly shouted, "look at the gap. Is there a flash of spiritual light?" He was in a position facing the crack, and he could see it as soon as he stood up, so he would naturally not miss the dazzling spiritual light in the dark. "It really is." One of them heard what Li Zhirui said and ran over to watch. "Could it be that the secret realm is about to be born? I didn't expect that we would have such an opportunity. If there are many spiritual objects in the secret realm, maybe we can go one step further and become a giant's Hanren." Everyone looked longing, as if they saw their beautiful and bright future. But Li Zhirui was secretly alert. His eyes seemed to accidentally sweep over everyone, observing their movements. Money can move people's hearts. A precious spiritual object is enough to make them turn against each other and fight to the death, let alone a secret realm that no one has discovered. Especially the most powerful Bailey. He is the target that Li Zhirui is most vigilant. It looks like the secret realm is really going to be revealed. Bailey was also very excited and said, "I have to thank you, fellow Taoist. If you hadn't discovered it, we would have missed this opportunity. It's just a coincidence. Even if I didn't find it, other fellow Taoists would have found it." Li Zhirui immediately changed the subject and asked, "It may take several days for this secret realm to be revealed. Everyone should prepare well. However, there is also a possibility that the secret realm is too low in grade and the foundation-building cultivators cannot enter. If this is the case, then it can only be said that they are not destined to be with the secret realm." Everyone had no objection to this and entered the formation again. While the secret realm has not yet been opened, they adjusted their state to the best. As time passed, the spiritual light in the crack became brighter and brighter. After 5 days, a small portal had been formed, through which everyone could vaguely see the scene inside. "This seems a little wrong," someone muttered in a low voice. In the past, the secret realms were full of spiritual energy and spiritual objects everywhere, but this one seemed to be full of yin and dark attributes. Although there were spiritual objects, they seemed to be some spiritual objects with yin and dark attributes. The predecessor of this secret realm, could it be a paradise of a certain demon sect? Li Zhirui frowned and turned his gaze to Bailey, wanting to see if he knew anything. "I don't know anything about secret realms either." Bailey shook his head. Li Zhirui retracted his gaze, lowered his head, and suddenly had a guess in his mind. If Bailey really didn't know anything except the location of the secret realm, then why did they come so coincidentally? The next day after arriving nearby, the secret realm was opened. And if he was not mistaken at the beginning, when the situation inside the secret realm was revealed, Bailey's face did not show a trace of surprise, and it looked like he had known it for a long time. All these made Li Zhirui feel very strange, and he was secretly wary of Bailey. "The secret realm will be open soon, and we will know when we go in and take a look, right?" someone said nonchalantly. "Yes, if anyone doesn't want to go in, They couldn't wait outside or return to the fairy city alone. Li Zhirui's expression did not change after hearing this, but he sighed in his heart. It seems that this unknown and strange secret realm has made many people lose their usual caution and calmness. Regardless of what others think, he decided not to enter the secret realm after it was opened. That night, the spiritual light of the secret realm became more and more obvious, but it was covered by a formation and would not be known to outsiders. Wang Daoyao, do you think it will be dangerous in the secret realm? A female cultivator named Li Ninger in the team asked softly. Li Zhirui opened his eyes and smiled. Daoyao, do you think that secret realm is not dangerous? Then why don't you want to enter this secret realm? An hour ago, Bai Li counted the number of people who were willing to enter the secret realm. Except for Li Zhirui, who explicitly refused, most of the others agreed directly. Only Li Ninger and a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building were still hesitant and did not give a clear answer. I feel that the spiritual objects in the secret realm are not worth my risk. After saying that, Li Zhirui closed his eyes. Li Ninger saw this. A trace of dissatisfaction flashed in her beautiful eyes, but it was not easy to vent, so she could only snort and turn back to her seat. The next morning, the secret realm was completely opened. Li Zhirui stood up and said with a smile, I wish all Taoist friends smooth sailing and fruitful harvest. I will take my leave first and wait for you to return in the immortal city. After that, Li Zhirui was about to summon the spirit boat and fly eastward. Where are you going? Suddenly a sinister voice sounded, and before Li Zhirui could react, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him, with a bloody mouth, trying to swallow him directly. Bang! Li Zhirui didn't have time to think about it, and immediately urged the spirit boat to self-destruct, and he escaped into the space, and in an instant he made all kinds of defenses and immediately came out of the space. Thank you for your support. Chapter 189 Secret Realm. Huh? The three ghosts didn't expect Li Zhirui to be so decisive, but when he used his spiritual sense to scan, he was surprised to find that this foundation-building cultivator was unharmed. Although the self-detonation of the spirit boat can block the attack of the evil spirit, he will also be affected. But Li Zhirui only used the second-level magic weapon and talisman to block the attack, and he was unharmed, which was obviously unusual. You kid, hand over the treasure in your hand, and I will spare your life, the three ghosts ordered arrogantly. Li Zhirui ignored him and immediately turned around and flew towards the secret realm. Before the three ghosts could react, he disappeared in an instant. Bai Li and others didn't expect Li Zhirui to choose to enter the secret realm, but thinking about it, this seems to be the only choice. After all, there are giant and demon cultivators blocking the road outside. If they want to survive, they can only enter the secret realm. As for if the three ghosts are waiting at the exit, how can they escape after the secret realm is closed? It is not on their consideration for the time being. Now they should think of a way to survive first. As for why this giant and demon cultivator suddenly appeared here, no one had time to think about it. It was the foundation-building demon cultivator who was searching for the whereabouts of Bai Li and others. Because he could not determine their whereabouts, he could only report the most likely route. But unexpectedly, he found them. Fortunately, Bai Li and others were preparing to enter the secret realm, and now they could not wait to step into the closed door, and disappeared in front of the three ghosts. Humph! The three ghosts only noticed the secret realm portal in the crack at this time, and said coldly, I didn't expect you cultivators to have such luck. The three ghosts flew to the door, but found that it was only a second-level secret realm. He could not enter it. A trace of sarcasm appeared at the corner of his mouth, and said, but do you think that I can't do anything to you? He immediately contacted the nearby mortal city and reported the news of an immortal city here to the sect, stating that the secret realm was biased towards the magic way, and it was very likely that it was a cave paradise transformed by the magic way forces. He hoped that the sect would send a large number of foundation-building disciples to explore. The status of the three ghosts in Yinfang Cave is still very high, not to mention that there is such a secret realm that is beneficial to Yinfang Cave. That afternoon, they sent hundreds of foundation-building disciples to come. Brother is so lucky to have discovered this top-secret realm, the giant and demon cultivator who led the team said with envy. You know, there is a rule inside Yinfang Cave that anyone who discovers a secret realm can get 10% of the resources in the secret realm. Although this is only a second-level secret realm, Yinfang Cave may not use boundary stones, and he will not get resources many times, but even so, it is enough to make people envious. And what if there are special spiritual objects in the secret realm? Then, The three ghosts will be rich. The road to cultivation in the future can be said to be a smooth road, and breaking through the late giant is just a matter of time. It's just luck. The three ghosts smiled slightly. As for the cultivators such as Li Zhirui who escaped into the secret realm, there is no need to say anything. Fortunately, this is a second-level secret realm, and the demon cultivator cannot come in. Li Zhirui stood still and breathed a sigh of relief. But when he came to his senses, he couldn't help showing a bitter face. Although he had escaped now, the secret realm would eventually close. What would he do then? Alice, Li Zhirui sighed heavily. He didn't have any good ideas. He could only take it one step at a time and see what happened next. This secret realm doesn't seem to be dangerous. He had previously used his spiritual sense to scan the surroundings, and found no living creatures within a radius of several miles. A lot of spiritual creatures had grown, and they were growing very well, but unfortunately their attributes were too single, with only two types, yin and dark. Li Zhirui used his spiritual sense to carefully guard the surroundings, and at the same time, he collected various spiritual creatures with his hands and feet. Although the grade was not high, these two types of spiritual medicines were always rare, so the price was quite high, which was also a considerable income. This secret realm is so big. This was Li Zhirui's sigh on the third day of entering the secret realm, because up to now, he had not encountered a single living creature. Although their team was not large, it was not so small that they could not encounter any living creatures in 3 days, right? Unless it had a vast area. Wait, there's a fight ahead. Li Zhirui had just been talking about by Li and the others when he heard faint, intense sounds of fighting from afar. Could it be that they found some precious spiritual objects and a conflict broke out? At this time, Li Zhirui didn't know that in addition to the cultivators like them, there were also a large number of foundation-building demon cultivators in the secret realm, with their numbers being dozens or even hundreds of times theirs. So when they followed the sound and found that both sides of the battle were demon cultivators, they were so surprised. What's going on? Li Zhirui took advantage of one of them finally killing his opponent and attacked brazenly. Countless vines rose from the ground, not giving the demon cultivator any chance to react, and directly bound him tightly. How could there be cultivators in the secret realm? The demon cultivator was stunned when he saw Li Zhirui appear, and he didn't even answer the question. Li Zhirui asked with a frosty face, I ask your answer, otherwise, you will not want to try the punishment just now again. The demon cultivator nodded frantically. The vines that wrapped around his body all had sharp barbs. Once Li Zhirui controlled the vines, the barbs would pierce into his body, making him feel extremely painful. How did you get to the secret realm? In order to save his life, the demon cultivator said everything he knew. After listening, Li Zhirui's face was extremely ugly. He actually forgot about this. Although the golden elixir could not enter the secret realm, with his status in Yinfeng Cave, the secret realm itself was precious, so he paid attention to letting a large number of foundation-building disciples enter the secret realm. However, no one could have imagined that a second-level secret realm would be so large. It had been several days before he encountered 2 demon cultivators. Please spare me. I am willing to serve you as the master and bring you news about a large number of demon cultivators. The demon cultivator quickly begged for mercy, fearing that he would lose his life after a moment of speaking. But how could Li Zhirui let him go? Accompanied by a sharp scream, it finally became quiet. However, after dealing with this demon cultivator, Li Zhirui didn't know whether he was lucky or unlucky. He encountered demon cultivators one after another, and fierce fights broke out. It must be said that the demon cultivators were quite powerful in fighting, especially the endless levels of spells and methods, which made it difficult for him to deal with them. But what Li Zhirui didn't know was that at this time, a cultivator had already died at the hands of the demon cultivators. It was the female cultivator Li Ninger who had asked him before. She was not lucky and met a demon cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. The result can be imagined. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Explosion. If you are willing to surrender and hand over the 1,000-year-old ghost wood in your hand, I can spare your life as long as you switch to practicing my Yuan Dao technique. A demon cultivator in the late stage of foundation building looked at Li Zhirui, who was alert, and persuaded him in a good tone. The so-called Yuan Dao is the magic path mentioned by Li Zhirui and other cultivators. After all, it is impossible for a cultivator of the magic path to call himself such a slanderous word, so he chose the legendary name of Yuan Dao. In the legend, long ago, Yuan Dao was not the current magic path. Although it is different from the immortal path in absorbing and exhaling pure spirit and cultivating magic power, it is also a righteous path. It's a pity that the inheritance of Yuan Dao fell into decline and was eventually lost in this world. Now even its name has been tarnished by demon cultivators. Speaking of which, Li Zhirui couldn't help but sneer when he heard this and said, "Do you think you can beat me?" Although the other party is outnumbered, with 2 demon cultivators in the late stage of foundation building, 3 demon cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building, and 5 demon cultivators, he couldn't beat them. Could he still escape? Besides, he may not necessarily lose. As for the 1,000-year ghost wood mentioned by the other party, Li Zhirui is even more impossible to hand it over. You know, this is a 3rd-level spiritual object, and its wood core is the famous soul-nourishing wood. The souls of the cultivators who practice Qi and build the foundation are weak, and their bodies are destroyed. The souls cannot exist at all, and they will enter the netherworld in an instant. But when it comes to the golden elixir in the primordial infant, the souls have reached a certain strength and can barely exist for a moment, and the higher the cultivation, the longer they exist. If you have a soul-nourishing wood in hand, then after the body is destroyed, you can move into it, and with the help of the soul-nourishing wood, continue to live in the state of soul. Of course, this is time-limited, and it can last for about a few decades. But don't forget that high-level cultivators can practice the method of defying the heavens and seize the bodies of others. Although the risk of seizing the body is not small, it is better than the soul flying away and re-entering reincarnation, right? And with the soul-nourishing wood, not only do you have time to select a good candidate for seizing the body, but you can also strengthen the soul and increase the success rate of seizing the body. It can be said that although the soul-nurturing wood is only a 3rd-level spiritual object, once it is born, even the nascent soul and even the high-level cultivators such as the god of transformation will move at the first sign of trouble and snatch this treasure. After all, for them, the soul-nurturing wood is equivalent to the proof of a second chance to survive. Although Li Zhirui can't use such a good thing, how can he hand it over? If you don't accept the toast, you will be punished. Seeing that Li Zhirui would never give up, the demon cultivator snorted coldly and cast spells one after another. Gusts of cold wind began to rage, and evil spirits and zombies appeared beside them, attacking him at the same time. Li Zhirui's mind moved, and he called out Daking and Zhaoking, saying, "Daking, you prepare for defense, Zhaoking. You use magic to entangle those zombies, and leave the rest to me." These 2 spiritual beasts in the Foundation establishment realm were the reason why he didn't escape on the spot. HMPH. I thought you had some ability, but I didn't expect it was relying on these 2 beasts. The demon cultivator snorted disdainfully, a flash of black light flashed across his palm, and a sharp black wind attacked Li Zhirui in an instant. Daking, who is in the middle stage of foundation building, and Zhaoking, who is in the early stage of foundation building, were indeed not worthy of their vigilance, but they underestimated Li Zhirui's strength. He raised his hand and summoned several slender vine dragons, which were of different shapes. Some were purple and poisonous, some were hideous and full of thorns, and some were covered with thick leaves and looked very bloated. Under Li Zhirui's control, the vine dragons nimbly avoided the attacks of the demon cultivators and occasionally launched a counterattack. Li Zhirui fought against 5 demon cultivators on his own and did not fall into a disadvantage. This made them shocked and angry, and they became more and more ruthless, using various killing moves one after another. Although there were many vine dragons, it also meant that their defense was poor. Under the full efforts of the demon cultivators, they had begun to be damaged. However, they did not realize that the bloated vine dragons had been in a state of protection, and their attacks were very ordinary, with simple and common flying leaf attacks. When they approached the demon cultivator, the spell in Li Zhirui's hand suddenly changed, and the thick-leaved vine dragon frantically absorbed the nearby spiritual energy, becoming more bloated, and then, in their horrified eyes, staged an earth-shaking explosion. This was the explosive spiritual vine that Li Zhirui had carefully cultivated for many years. Today was his first time using it. Judging from its power, it should be equivalent to the self-detonation of a second-level magic weapon. But the 2 cannot be compared at all. You know, the first-level and second-level magic weapons are worth at least thousands of spiritual stones, But a vine dragon is only 10 explosive spiritual vines. Even if Li Zhirui used spiritual stones to give birth to a second-level spiritual vine, it would only take a few hundred spiritual stones. But how many spiritual seeds would a mature spiritual vine have? At least hundreds. However, not every spiritual seed of the explosive spiritual vine can be reproduced, and most of them can only be used for casting spells. Therefore, Li Zhirui did not have too many spirit seeds in his hand, and the use of this kind of spirit seeds consumed several times the mana of other spirit seeds. With his current mana, he could only activate dozens of seeds at the same time at most, and he could not activate hundreds of spirit seeds casually like other spirit seeds. Under the unexpected explosion, 2 of the 5 demon cultivators were directly killed, and the other 3 were also seriously injured to varying degrees. Now it seems that it is not me who should beg for mercy, but you, Li Zhirui said with a smile. But he did not give the other party a chance to beg for mercy. He raised his knife and cut off their heads neatly. He waved his hand to collect their bodies, and after leaving the secret realm, he went to the fairy city to exchange contribution points. And then disturbed the nearby atmosphere, took Daking and Zhaoking, and flew away immediately. But in a moment, several demon cultivators came to this messy battlefield. Looking at the pit that was blown out by force, several people trembled all over. They could imagine how terrifying and fierce the battle had just broken out. What a pity. The victorious party is experienced and left no information behind, the demon cultivator in charge of tracking said with regret. Because he felt that the battle was so fierce, even if one side won, it would be a miserable victory and suffered a lot of injuries. If they were caught up by them, wouldn't they be the final winner? They could defeat the other side more easily and get their resources and those of the dead group. As for why they were all fellow disciples, why would they fight each other? The demon cultivators who could survive in the cruel Yinfeng cave and successfully build their foundation would never have such a ridiculous idea. At this time, Li Zhirui, who was hiding in a hidden cave, counted the relics of those people. There were not many spirit stones, but there were a lot of bloody materials. The stench that hit him made him want to vomit. He endured a rolling stomach and cleaned up these disgusting materials. Only then did he feel better and officially counted their storage bags. Chapter 191 Ghost. The 5 people together only had tens of thousands of spiritual stones, dozens of bottles of spiritual pills used by the magic cultivators, a few second-level magic tools, and some spiritual objects that looked like they had just been picked. There were no surprises or accidents, just the wealth of an ordinary foundation-building cultivator. Li Zhirui rested in the cave for a night, and the next morning, he continued to explore the secret realm and search for spiritual objects. As for the whereabouts and safety of Bailang and others, he did not care too much. After all, the relationship between them was far from being familiar friends. And even if they survived the search of a large number of magic cultivators, they still had to face a more severe and cruel situation, that is, the giant and magic cultivators waiting outside. Li Zhirui believed that he could temporarily block the opponent with the 2/3 level talismans in his hand, buy a moment, let him escape into the space, and thus escape. As for Bailang and others, perhaps among them, only Bailang, a cultivator from the Jiandan family, had a means to save his life and could survive in the hands of the Jiandan. After a morning, in order to avoid a gathering of demon cultivators, Li Zhirui only got a spiritual medicine from a second-level monster. Apart from that, he didn't get anything else. Because there was no monster at the beginning, he thought there was no monster in this secret realm, but later he found out that he was wrong. It was not that there was no monster, but that there was no monster where he appeared. But Li Zhirui didn't know why, but he didn't care much. After all, this was just a second-level secret realm. It was restricted by the laws of the secret realm, and it was impossible for a third-level creature to be born. In the foundation-building realm, if it was one-on-one, he really wasn't afraid of any opponent. It looks like there won't be much harvest today. Li Zhirui shook his head helplessly. The most valuable spiritual object he got during the days he entered the secret realm was the 3rd-level 1000-year ghost wood. Apart from that, they were all low-level spiritual objects. Fortunately, some spiritual medicines were not available to Li Zhirui before, so they were still of some value. Among them, there was a 2nd-level spiritual medicine called Strange Root Flower, which was also a relatively precious spiritual medicine that could be used to refine a spiritual medicine for healing the body and soul. Looking at the spiritual light in the sea of consciousness, it should be some time before the secret realm closes. I wonder if I can get other precious spiritual objects before I leave. Li Zhirui is looking forward to this. 2 flowers bloom, each showing its own beauty. A team of 7 magic cultivators is exploring the secret realm, hoping to find more spiritual objects and make a fortune. Unfortunately, this wish failed in the end. They didn't encounter many spiritual objects along the way. This is completely different from the previous period when it was easy to find spiritual objects. The main reason is that there are too many magic cultivators entering the secret realm, and the spiritual objects have been taken away by them. Moreover, most of the magic cultivators are greedy. They are like a group of locusts. Wherever they pass, no grass will grow. It is impossible for spiritual objects to continue to grow in the same place. We are too unlucky. Aren't we? After a day, we have hardly gained any understanding. Should we change direction? Maybe there are brothers ahead of us on this road. If we follow them, it is impossible for us to get spiritual medicine, but where are we going? I don't know how many magic cultivators there are in the secret realm now. Maybe it will be the same road as now, someone said with disappointment. Why do you think the 3 ghosts wanted so many of us to enter the secret realm? Could it be that he knows something? Various speculations came out of their mouths. As for whether they were right or wrong, they didn't care. They just used it to kill time. Look, what's in front of us? Someone suddenly shouted. Everyone looked in the direction of his finger, and saw a series of dilapidated palaces standing in the distance, forming a large palace complex. One of them was full of excitement, and said with a slight tremor, this is most likely the inheritance left by the owner of the secret realm. The secret realm is not only used to cultivate spiritual objects, but also a very safe place. Precious things and the inheritance of the sect will be placed in the secret realm for safekeeping. If there is something in the palace, then we will find it, and we will definitely get a generous reward from the sect. Everyone could no longer hold back, and flew towards the palace at their fastest speed. Blinded by greed, they forgot one thing for a while, that is, such an obvious palace, why has it not been discovered until now? Especially the team before them. According to the direction, that team could not fail to see this palace. But now, there is no cultivator in the palace at all, as if they have never been there. My dears, I'm here, a demon cultivator shouted loudly, rushing into the palace before the others. Seeing this, the others sped up, but when they all came in, the palace door suddenly closed by itself. A ghost suddenly appeared in front of everyone and said with a smile, "Welcome everyone." As this sentence sounded, more and more ghosts began to show their figures and appeared in front of everyone. In just a moment, hundreds of ghosts appeared. Their appearance caused the temperature nearby to drop a lot, which also made the demon cultivators very uneasy. And the next moment, the actions of the ghosts verified that their feelings were not wrong. They saw them ferociously pounced on everyone and bit a few flesh and blood fiercely. A burst of heart-wrenching screams rang out one after another. Although they later came to their senses and protected their vitals, they did not die, but the pain that penetrated into their bones caused the demon cultivators' combat power to drop sharply. Everyone calm down and launch a counterattack together, so that we can escape, the strongest demon cultivator shouted loudly. Unfortunately, they underestimated the strength of the ghosts. You know, each ghost is a second-level ghost. And the number is more than 10 times theirs. After a not-so-intense battle, the demon cultivators were completely wiped out, and the ghosts also suffered some losses, but no ghost cared. This may be a relief for them. What's more, it won't be long before the ghosts will be born from the corpses of the demon cultivators to make up for the previous losses. This secret realm is full of yin energy, and it is very easy to give birth to ghosts. They are born from dead monsters. Therefore, they don't need much flesh and blood. So there are monsters surviving in the secret realm, otherwise they would have been captured by them and become blood food. As for why they all gathered in this place? Because this is the core of the secret realm, it is the place with the most yin energy and the most suitable place for them to live. From now on, everyone can leave this place and go out to hunt monks on their own. A voice full of majesty sounded in the sky, and I don't know how much disaster it will bring to the demon cultivators. Thank you for your support. Chapter 192 Pressure. What's going on with these ghosts that suddenly appeared? Li Zhirui looked at the 3 ghosts flying towards him not far away, his eyes full of surprise. Although this secret realm is full of yin qi, and it is very easy to give birth to ghosts, the new ghosts must start from the first level, but now all the ghosts that appear in front of him are second-level ghosts. There is a creature in front, I can have a good meal again. The number of these foreign creatures is getting smaller and smaller. Maybe it won't be long before they become extinct. Yeah, it's so hard to enjoy such delicious flesh and blood, but it's gone so soon. These ghosts seemed to think that they had Li Zhirui in their hands, and they talked about how to taste his flesh and blood in front of him without restraint. Humph, Li Zhirui's face was extremely ugly, and he acted without hesitation. One by one, huge trees full of vitality appeared out of thin air, and instantly surrounded the three ghosts. The giant trees were dense, forming a trapping formation, and the spell was controlled by Li Zhirui, and there was no fixed exit. If you want to leave, you can only rush out by force. Although he didn't know the thunder and fire methods that could restrain the ghosts, his wood magic, which was full of vitality, could also restrain the ghosts. The ghosts were horrified. They didn't expect that the other party could defeat them with just one move. You know, they had never been so unbearable when fighting with lone demon cultivators before, and with the help of numbers, they could often successfully kill the demon cultivators. But they didn't think about it. At that time, they had nearly 10 second-level ghosts acting together. Not to mention ordinary demon cultivators, even Li Zhirui was not a match. The ghosts hurriedly took action to break the spell, but before they succeeded, Li Zhirui added countless vines to the spell to entangle the ghosts. Not long after, the ghosts became captives in Li Zhirui's hands. Tell me all your origins. At first, they wanted to be tough, but under Li Zhirui's methods, they soon became honest. And through their narration, Li Zhirui's face gradually became very solemn. This group of ghosts was originally formed by the Seven Soul sect, which is the sect that opened up this secret realm and existed many years ago. Some disciples who were trapped in the secret realm died and disappeared. However, ghosts also have a lifespan limit. Even if they try their best, they can only live for 1,000 years. But you have to know that a cultivator has to break through the 4th level nascent soul realm to have a lifespan of 1,000 years. A second-level ghost can live for 1,000 years, which is already very remarkable. It is also because of the initial Seven Soul sect disciples that the ghosts in the secret realm have various inheritances, and finally formed a force that dominates the secret realm. For example, the spiritual objects in the secret realm were deliberately planted outside by them to facilitate the improvement of the strength of the monsters and ensure the continuity of the ghost race and inheritance. After all, ghosts cannot reproduce on their own. Who is the strongest among you? Li Zhirui asked. A ghost said with pride, of course it is the Supreme Elder. It is said that he has stepped into the threshold of the 3rd level. If it were not for the restrictions of the secret realm rules, he would have broken through the 3rd level long ago. Half a step to the 3rd level? Li Zhirui was shocked. Anyone who could achieve this in the 2nd level secret realm must have extraordinary talent. If it were in the outside world, he would have succeeded long ago. Have you found the exit to leave the secret realm? The ghosts inherited from the disciples of the Seven Souls sect could not have been unaware of the place where they lived, which was just a large secret realm. I heard that the exit has been found, but it seems to be very dangerous outside, so there is no plan to go out. When they caught the first demon cultivator, they were trying to find the exit and inquire about the news outside. After finding it, they immediately sent several ghosts out to explore, but none of them came back. They knew that it was very dangerous outside, so they did not continue to explore, and only arranged some ghosts to guard the exit. In order to ensure the authenticity of the news, Li Zhirui interrogated the 3 ghosts separately, but got exactly the same answer. This is bad, Li Zhirui said with a bitter expression. There is a giant cultivator sitting outside the secret realm, and there are a large number of ghosts inside, as well as a ghost of the 3rd level half-step. More importantly, the spiritual light in his sea of consciousness, which symbolized the opening of the secret realm, had gradually dimmed. It would not be long before the secret realm would be closed. But what Li Zhirui did not know was that there was not only Sangui, the giant and demon cultivator, in the outside world. Because of the death of a large number of foundation-building disciples, the high-level officials of Yinfeng Cave had paid attention to it, and they specially arranged 2 Jinden to come and investigate the situation. By interrogating the ghosts who went out to investigate the situation, they had a deeper understanding of the situation in the secret realm, especially after knowing that there were some inheritances of the Seven Soul sect and a large number of soul-raising trees in it. Yinfeng Cave immediately made up its mind to fix the secret realm with boundary stones and invest a large number of cultivators to occupy this place. As for the disciples who died in the secret realm, they did not take it to heart at all. Anyway, They were just some foundation-building disciples, and it would not take much effort to cultivate a large group. Alice, Li Zhirui sighed heavily. Due to the increasing number of ghosts in the secret realm, he could not bear the disturbance and had to hide in the space to avoid the large number of ghosts. But as he watched the increasingly dimming spiritual light in his sea of consciousness, he became increasingly anxious. If he missed this opportunity to leave the secret realm, he would not have the chance to break through the golden elixir, and would die in the secret realm after more than 100 years. Although he would become a ghost after death, would Li Zhirui still be Li Zhirui at that time? G. Duckwing looked at Li Zhirui, who was full of sorrow, and immediately comforted him, hoping that he could cheer up. Thank you, Duckwing. Li Zhirui touched his green tortoise shell and said softly, we still have to give it a try, even if it was very dangerous. He didn't want to surrender, and he had to fight to see if it would work. Gee. If you need me, remember to call me out. Li. Xiaoqing on the side also echoed. Okay. After that, Li Zhirui left the space and followed the guidance in the sea of consciousness, carefully moving towards the exit. Who's there? Come out. With his powerful spiritual sense, Li Zhirui avoided all the ghosts, but halfway, he found a person secretly spying on him. Li Zhirui's fingertips were shining with spiritual light. If that person was unwilling to show up, he could help him. Don't do it, I'll be out soon. The man saw that Li Zhirui was serious, and whispered hurriedly, slowly revealing his figure from a towering tree. As soon as he showed up, a dark light flashed in Li Zhirui's eyes, because the person who came out was actually a demon cultivator. And his cultivation was only in the middle stage of foundation building. Thank you for your support. Chapter 193 Preparation. Don't be impulsive, sir. There are ghosts everywhere in the secret realm. The noise you make will definitely attract a large number of ghosts nearby to investigate the situation. Then neither you nor I will be able to get away with it, the demon cultivator said hurriedly. At the same time, he took the initiative to lower his posture, hoping that Li Zhirui would relax his vigilance and not attack without saying anything. Why are you here? Li Zhirui said coldly. Although the spiritual light on his hand did not dissipate, it was slightly restrained. The demon cultivator said innocently, look at what you said, sir. I have been hiding here for a long time, and you came later. Li Zhirui's expression froze, and he did not get entangled with him too much. While carefully guarding against his sudden attack, he quickly fled into the distance. Demon cultivators and monks naturally do not get along, but it is not a hatred. After all, the two are monks at the bottom of the cultivation world. The hatred between monks and demon cultivators has nothing to do with them. The main reason is that demon cultivators are not trustworthy. The painful lessons in the past have proved this point. Since there is no so-called trust, there is naturally no need to stay and discuss any words of cooperation with him. Just as Li Zhirui was about to leave the side of the demon cultivator, he suddenly saw a glimmer of light on the demon cultivator's hand. He immediately felt something was wrong and sped up to escape into the distance, while releasing the spells he had accumulated for a long time. Boom! The two spells collided in mid-air, and a strong shock wave erupted. Such a huge movement immediately attracted the attention of all the ghosts nearby. Damn bastard! Looking at the ghosts around him who were heading here, Li Zhirui roared in frustration, no longer caring about the problem of being exposed, and immediately dodged into space. As for the demon cultivator, he was ready to hide when he attacked, but now he has disappeared. Where are the people? Looking at the empty place, all the ghosts who came over had this doubt in their hearts. The ghosts were unwilling and worried. They searched nearby for a long time, almost digging 3 feet into the ground, but they still couldn't find the existence of living beings. In the end, they had no choice but to leave this place. Li Zhirui stayed in the space for a whole day before coming out. Seeing that there were no ghosts nearby, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and continue to run towards the exit. In the outside world, after many days of preparation, Yinfang Cave has gathered all the materials for setting up the formation, but now there is a problem. If it can't be solved, it can't go on. That is, the cultivator needs to enter the secret realm and fix another set of formation plates in the portal to fix the secret realm. In the future, you can enter the secret realm at any time through the formation. But it's easy to know that the portal of the secret realm is definitely guarded by ghosts, and there are a large number of ghosts in the secret realm. It's impossible for disciples with weaker strength to complete this task. As for the powerful disciples, they either have backers or are the golden elixir seeds that Yinfeng Cave focuses on cultivating. They are definitely not comparable to those disciples who are used as cannon fodder. Now we can only send more disciples in to protect the stronger disciple to complete this task. A certain golden elixir frowned. We can only do this, otherwise we will have to watch the secret realm close. The three ghosts nodded. The secret realm is usually not open for too long, and this one has been open for more than 10 days, so it should be closed soon. As for the life and death of Li Zhirui and other cultivators, the three ghosts no longer care about it. First, they think it is impossible for them to come out of the secret realm alive, and second, the secret realm has shown its value. As the discoverer, the three ghosts will receive generous rewards from the sect. Under the arrangement of the three giant and demon cultivators, a large number of foundation-building disciples entered the secret realm, but among them, only one person knew the real mission of this trip. Protect yourself and don't let us down, a certain giant said earnestly. Disciple must complete the task, because if this mission fails, then he will be a true disciple and will also be punished to a certain extent, which is not conducive to his future status in the sect, so he cannot fail. What is Yinfeng Cave doing? Li Zhirui, who had come to the exit and was waiting for the opportunity to leave the secret realm, suddenly found that many demon cultivators appeared and were surrounding the ghosts. Go! With the order, all the demon cultivators present launched an attack on the ghosts. Caught off guard, and with the fierce momentum of the demon cultivators, the ghosts who hastily responded to the battle were quickly dealt with. Hurry up, set up the formation, our mission is completed. As long as we leave the secret realm, there will be a large number of spiritual objects from the sect last time, the most senior one among them said loudly. Sure enough, with rewards hanging in front of everyone, the enthusiasm will be greatly improved, and he also needs someone to help resist the ghosts who may come at any time. They are. Li Zhirui watched the man solemnly take out a formation plate, his 10 fingers flying like a butterfly flying through flowers, which was amazing. But his focus was not on this, but on the formation plate in the man's hand. At first, he didn't know what the formation plate was used for, thinking it was used to guard the exit to ensure that the demon cultivators could escape from this secret realm. But when Li Zhirui saw that the man integrated the formation plate into the portal, everything became clear. Yinfeng Cave wanted to fix the location of this secret realm, so as to develop the secret realm and harvest precious spiritual objects. In this way, Li Zhirui no longer has to worry about the time of the secret realm retreat, but the disadvantage is that in a short period of time, a large number of demon cultivators will gather in the outside world. If he chooses to go out at this time, it will be more dangerous. Looking deeply at the demon cultivator who was arranging the formation, Li Zhirui quietly flashed into the space. He now has to seriously consider whether to wait for the Yinfeng Cave to occupy the secret realm, and the outside world will no longer gather a large number of demon cultivators before going out, or to take a great risk and leave the secret realm now. It is unknown how long the former will take. It may be a month, or it may be a year or two, or even longer. After all, the secret realm does not allow giant and cultivators to enter, and there are half-step third-level cultivators among the ghosts. This depends on the determination and investment of Yinfeng Cave. The only and biggest disadvantage of the latter is that it is too dangerous. The former is safer, but the latter can stimulate Li Zhirui and let him break through the bottleneck under great pressure. If it were the previous Li Zhirui, he would definitely choose the former. After all, acting steadily is his consistent principle. But now, Li Zhirui, who had been troubled by the bottleneck for a long time and wanted to break through the golden elixir as soon as possible, chose the latter after hesitation and consideration. However, adventure is adventure, he can't rush out without any preparation. If so, it's not adventure, but suicide. So in the next few days, Li Zhirui was in the space, making various preparations that he thought would help him escape and save his life. Chapter 194 Dilemma. First of all, there were various talismans that Li Zhirui had bought before, mainly smoke talismans and defensive talismans. The former blocked the line of sight, and the latter resisted attacks. In addition, there were various elixirs for healing and restoring mana, just in case of accidents. It took another half a day to adjust himself to the best state. Li Zhirui quietly left the space under the worried and uneasy eyes of Daking and Zhaoking. The first thing to face was the demon cultivators guarding the exit of the secret realm. Although their strength was not bad, Li Zhirui did not intend to fight them to the death. As long as he entered the exit, it would be fine. But when he appeared in the tree canopy, he suddenly found that there were more than a dozen demon cultivators near the exit. But while Li Zhirui was preparing, The demon cultivators had already arranged the boundary formation, so there was no need to worry about the secret realm being closed at any time, so they arranged many disciples to enter the secret realm, hoping to solve the ghosts entrenched here as soon as possible and occupy the secret realm. And the scene in front of him made Li Zhirui frown. There were too many demon cultivators, which was very different from what he had expected before. Unless he uses the only third-level talisman in his hand, it is impossible to reach the exit safely. What should I do now? Li Zhirui's face was very ugly. He was now in a dilemma. If he went in, not to mention that there were many giants in the outside world, he would have to use all his means to enter the door with more than 10 foundation-building demon cultivators not far away. If he retreated, the secret realm had now become a battlefield between ghosts and demon cultivators. As a foundation-building cultivator, he would probably be hunted down by both forces if his whereabouts were exposed. Li Zhirui looked bitter. He could not think of a way to break the situation for a while. He could only act according to circumstances. He first tried his best to restrain his breath and tried his best to avoid exposing his whereabouts, and then quietly waited for the opportunity to escape. Time passed, and soon the sky gradually dimmed. The demon cultivators did not dare to slack off, but became more vigilant. Although there were no sun, moon, stars, and real day and night in the secret realm, a similar effect was produced under the operation of the law. In the dark night, the strength of the ghosts will be enhanced. Last night, the ghosts caught everyone off guard, and they almost lost the strategic location of the secret realm exit. Today, the dark night is coming, and the ghosts will not only not give up, but will probably strengthen their strength and prepare to snatch the exit from the hands of the demon cultivators. Here they come. Li Zhirui's spiritual sense is much stronger than that of his peers, so he discovered in advance that a large number of ghosts were flying towards this place in the distance. In order to prevent the impact of the fight between the two sides from exposing him to others, Li Zhirui took advantage of the fact that the battle had not yet begun and carefully retreated to a distance and found a safer hiding place. Come on. If the exit is occupied by the ghosts, then all our previous efforts will be in vain. Even if you are lucky enough to escape with your life, the sect will never forgive you. The demon cultivator who led the group said this in a calm tone. The cruel punishment for losing the entrance and exit of the secret realm is probably no less than betraying the sect. I have contacted all the brothers in the secret realm during the day. They are now rushing over at full speed. As long as we can hold on for a while, we can repel the ghosts, although the move of holding a big stick in one hand and a sweet date in the other hand is old-fashioned, the effect is also very obvious. The originally panic-stricken demon cultivators became much calmer and calmer. This scene made the leading demon cultivator breathe a sigh of relief. Entering the secret realm is a random teleportation, and by setting up a boundary formation, the teleportation position can actually be fixed. It's just that time is a bit rushed and they haven't had time to set it up. So even the demon cultivators who have entered the secret realm now are randomly teleported to various places in the secret realm. Even if they have received the news, it is not easy to arrive here safely under the patrol of a large number of ghosts, let alone arrive here in time. Soon, a large number of ghosts appeared in front of everyone. As soon as the two sides met, they fought each other, and various spells were cast one after another. However, compared to the various spells of the demon cultivators, the spells of the ghosts were a bit monotonous. Fortunately, there were many ghosts, and the environment of the secret realm was more suitable for ghosts, so gradually the demon cultivators fell into disadvantage and were defeated by the ghosts. Just when Li Zhirui thought that the demon cultivators could not hold on and the secret realm portal was about to change hands, the demon cultivator suddenly activated a third-level talisman. Suddenly, a fishy smell came, and a red light expanded instantly. In the blink of an eye, a huge blood lake was formed, enclosing all the ghosts. As soon as the ghosts came into contact with the blood, they burst into a heart-wrenching scream. The pain contained in it made Li Zhirui, who was far away, shudder involuntarily. The blood had a very strong corrosive power. After just a moment of contact, the bodies of the ghosts began to become dim. I'm afraid it won't be long before they will completely die. The ghosts struggled to fly out of the blood lake, retreating backwards with fear, not daring to go any further. They were alert to the demon cultivators while absorbing the rich yin qi between heaven and earth. Li Zhirui was a little surprised by this reversal. He didn't expect that the demon cultivator had such a powerful third-level talisman in his hand, which made the ghosts who originally had the advantage lose instantly. But the current situation is very good for him. a cultivator who wants to escape from the secret realm. Because after the two sides fought a big battle, even the winner, the demon cultivator, consumed a lot of mana in his body and his strength declined. However, Li Zhirui did not act rashly, but continued to wait. He wanted to see if the ghost side had any trump cards, or wait until the demon cultivator began to recover his mana before taking action. Facts have proved that his cautiousness is useful. Although the ghost side suffered a great loss, it did not have a trump card in its hand. A large number of ghosts joined forces to cast a spell, and it actually condensed into 3 ghost water, attacking the demon cultivators. The 3 ghost water is the degenerated spiritual water of the legendary yellow spring water. There is also the 6 ghost water and the 9 ghost water mixed with the yellow spring water, which has some characteristics of the yellow spring water. For example, once it is touched, it cannot be easily shaken off, and it is useless to the physical body. It is specifically targeted at the soul. If there are many of them, it is not a problem to wear down a soul that has established its foundation. And the message composed of the 3 ghost water that many ghosts tried their best to summon was enough to kill all the demon cultivators present. Get out of the way. Seeing that the 3 ghost water was about to fall, the leading demon cultivator shouted loudly. Fortunately, the demon cultivator's willpower was not bad. Before the attack fell, most of them got away. Only 1 or 2 unlucky ones were doused by the 3 ghost water. The spiritual water quickly sank into their bodies. Unlike the previous screams of pain from the ghosts, they did not make any sound, and then suddenly lost their breath in front of everyone. This horrible and weird way of death, let alone Li Zhirui, even the demon cultivator who is used to seeing all kinds of deaths couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Thank you for your support. Chapter 195, Chasing. Fortunately, after launching this attack, the ghosts seemed to have exhausted their magic power. After leaving a harsh word, they immediately turned around and left. Seeing the ghosts gradually go away, the demon cultivators were relieved. If they continued to fight, they would be afraid of more casualties. Fortunately, Senior Brother has a 3rd-level talisman, otherwise we would be in danger today. A demon cultivator flattered with a flattering face. Thank you for saving my life. When other demon cultivators saw this scene, they couldn't help but flash a trace of shock in their eyes. The talisman was clearly a reward from the sect to defend against the exit. How could it become his personal property? And didn't that person know this? Of course he knew. Such flattery is just to cling to this direct disciple. You know, this person is a golden elixir seed, and it is very likely to break through the golden elixir. If it was placed in the sect, with their identities and status, it would be almost impossible to have the opportunity to communicate, let alone cling to him. Now that he has been given this opportunity, how could he give it up? He did not expect to break through the Jinden stage by clinging to the other party, because it was neither possible nor realistic. But by clinging to the other party, it is still possible for him to break through the late stage of foundation building as soon as possible, so that he has more time to polish his foundation and improve his chances of breaking through the Jinden stage. The others reacted later, but unfortunately the opportunity had already been taken by someone else. They could only grit their teeth and watch him become a subordinate of the personal disciple. As for whether this would be embarrassing, he didn't care about it. As long as he could achieve his goal, it didn't matter if he was scolded a few times. Li Zhirui, who was watching the movements of the demon cultivators from a distance, finally waited until they began to sit cross-legged to recover their mana, leaving only 2 demon cultivators with more mana to help guard the law and observe the surroundings. It's time, Li Zhirui whispered to himself, and before the words fell, he turned into a residual image and flew towards the exit of the secret realm. Cultivator, there are actually cultivators in the secret realm? How did he get in? The 2 stationed demon cultivators stared at Li Zhirui, who suddenly appeared in amazement. They were relatively late to enter the secret realm, and they did not know the real purpose of the 3 ghosts summoning disciples. Damn it! Come back. When they came to their senses, they saw Li Zhirui very close to the gate, and they were immediately frightened. Although they did not know the identity of the cultivator, they knew that if he escaped, no matter what the reason, they would be punished extremely cruelly. The 2 of them cast a spell in a hurry, trying to stop the galloping Li Zhirui, but Li Zhirui, who had made so many preparations, was not someone they could stop. Just as he was about to touch the gate, he suddenly felt a sense of danger, and his whole body was covered with chills, forcing Li Zhirui to stop and defend against the attack from behind. The attack fell on Li Zhirui's defensive aura, and he was not injured, but it hid him far away from the gate. Li Zhirui sighed in his heart, knowing that it would not be that easy. But facing the demon cultivators with fewer people and little mana left, he was still confident that he could break through their obstruction. However, due to the danger from the outside world, he did not choose to fight head-on, but activated several smoke charms, held several explosive pills in his hands, and shouted, "Thunder pills, explode from me." Explosive pills, a kind of magic weapon originally intended to imitate thunder pills, turned out to be very weak after being produced. The only thing worth mentioning is the deafening sound. The people who were originally thinking of continuing to fight, heard the word thunder pill, and immediately changed the magic formula in their hands, and cast a series of defensive spells, and everyone retreated violently. But they waited for a long time, and did not see the thunder pills being activated, only heard a few huge explosions. Damn, I was fooled, cunning monk. Many demon cultivators started to curse, as if doing so could reduce their responsibilities. Sure enough, when the smoke dissipated, where was Li Zhirui? But even if he left the secret realm, he would be easily caught like the previous ghosts. For this point, all the demon cultivators present were full of confidence that there would be no accidents. But the moment Li Zhirui left the secret realm, he activated more than 20 smoke talismans in his hand, and the billowing smoke covered the sky and the sun, covering the entire area. But this can only catch those demon cultivators off guard. After all, the smoke talisman has no function of shielding and concealing the divine consciousness, and now there are several divine consciousnesses locked on Li Zhirui. Counting the number of divine consciousnesses, Li Zhirui's mood suddenly sank. There are actually 7 Jindans sitting here. The reason for this is that the Yinfeng cave has been too active during this period, which has attracted the attention of Shanli Mountain, and people have been sent to investigate secretly. In order to delay or directly kill the cultivators of Shanli Mountain when they are discovered, they naturally sent a few more Jindan cultivators over. How come a cultivator came out, except for the 3 ghosts who knew the inside story? Everyone else was very curious about how this cultivator got in. 3 ghosts, are you hiding something from us? A Jindan cultivator asked. Seeing this, the 3 ghosts knew that they could no longer hide it, and explained the reason as quickly as possible. Li Zhirui on the ground was not the type to sit and wait for death. While the Jindan demon cultivators were not making a move, he activated all the low-level talismans in his hands, forming a huge torrent of magic, trying to stop the Jindan cultivators for a while. He himself summoned Zhao King and left the place as quickly as possible. It was not that he did not want to hide directly in the space, but he had the divine sense of the Jindan cultivator locked on him. The means of disappearing out of thin air were rare, but not easy to have. Once he exposed this, it would probably attract more Jindan demon cultivators to chase him, and now there was only one Jindan cultivator, Sangui, chasing him. Why are you chasing me so hard? With the interference of magic, Zhao King's flying speed, and the fact that they left first, the distance between the two was still a little far, but they were getting closer and closer, and it would not be long before Sangui would be caught up. Li Zhirui knew that he could not go on like this, so he immediately took out the 3rd-level talisman he treasured, and with a flash of inspiration, countless vines appeared out of thin air and stretched madly towards Sangui. At the same time, with the help of the large number of cultivated vine spirit seeds, a series of exploding vine dragons were formed. Boom! Li Zhirui exploded the vine dragon without saying a word, and there was an explosion that resounded through the world, and the smoke and dust blocked his sight. However, he had no intention of staying, because Li Zhirui knew very well that this level of attack could only injure the Jindan monks at best, and it was only a minor injury. But the greater probability was that it would only add a little trouble to them. Chapter 196 Seriously injured. In fact, it was true. Those exploding vine dragons did not hurt the 3 ghosts at all. Fortunately, there was the 3rd-level talisman, which temporarily entangled him for a moment, buying Li Zhirui some time. Zhao King flew at full speed regardless of everything. Li Zhirui looked at the 3 ghosts who were about to break free, his face full of anxiety. Quick, fly to that river. When he saw a river running eastward not far away, a hint of joy flashed in his eyes, and he shouted loudly. As long as they can enter the river, he can take this opportunity to temporarily block the 3 ghosts' consciousness and hide safely in space. If I let you escape, wouldn't my name of the 3 ghosts be a laughingstock? The 3 ghosts snorted coldly, and a black spirit flag grew in the wind, and countless evil ghosts flew out of it, whistling and chasing Li Zhirui. At this time, Li Zhirui realized that the three ghosts fell behind him before, not because they couldn't catch up with him, but like a wildcat playing with a mouse, enjoying his ridiculous struggle. In just a few breaths, the evil ghost crossed several miles and came to a few feet behind Li Zhirui. With this terrifying speed, he was afraid that he would catch up with him in the next breath. He knew that he could not keep the third-level defensive talisman in his hand, so he activated it immediately, and countless flying leaves gathered to form an extremely tall giant wall. At the same time, Li Zhirui ignored his remaining mana and roughly stuffed a few elixirs to restore mana, and began to stimulate the birth of explosive spirit vines, hiding in them, not seeking to kill them, but only to block the three ghosts for a while. Zhao King seemed to know that they were at a critical moment of life and death, and gritted his teeth to increase his speed, which had already reached the limit. Li Zhirui turned around and looked ahead, and was surprised to find that they were only 10 miles away from the river. At Zhao King's current speed, they could arrive in less than 5 breaths. Unfortunately, the explosive leaf wall he arranged had been torn apart by the three ghosts. What a great foundation building cultivator. The ancestor, I'm so embarrassed. When I catch you, I will make you wish you were dead, the three ghosts roared with a sinister look. The three ghosts did not expect that there were a lot of explosive spirit vines hidden in the layers of leaves. They were not careful and were blown up in a mess, which was reflected in his messy hair. But unfortunately, he was not injured. At the same time, Li Zhirui really angered him, and his original intention of playing turned into a murderous intention. Li Zhirui tried to support his meridians, which were swollen and painful due to the rough refining of a large number of spirit pills. A large number of second-level attack talismans in his hands were activated, colorful like a gorgeous rainbow, and there was endless murderous intent under the stunning appearance. But the gap between foundation building and golden elixir was like a natural moat. Li Zhirui's full-strength attack was easily blocked by the three ghosts. Suddenly, Li Zhirui felt that Zhao King's speed had increased again. He glanced at her with his peripheral vision and was overjoyed because they had come to the top of the river. Just hold on for a few more breaths, Li Zhirui continued to mobilize the mana in his body regardless of anything, and activated all the few remaining talismans in his hand. But these talismans were like a landslide in front of the three ghosts, and he solved them with a wave of his hand. Ho-ha, give up. From these few dozen talismans, it can be seen that Li Zhirui has reached the end of his rope. If you are willing to switch to practicing Yuandao Gongfa, I can spare your life. During the chase, the three ghosts actually felt a little bit of appreciation for Li Zhirui. After all, a foundation-building cultivator who could escape from the hands of the golden elixir for so long was indeed extraordinary. But Li Zhirui ignored the three ghosts at all, because he thought he had not fallen into a real desperate situation. Humph. If you don't accept the toast, you will be punished. The three ghosts' faces sank, and with a thought, several evil ghosts instantly appeared below Li Zhirui, blocking his route to the river. Boom. Li Zhirui urged the erosion gourd to explode. The terrifying power directly injured the evil spirits, and they were unable to stop him from moving forward. The defensive aura on his body also became extremely dim. But he did not stop there. Instead, he threw all the magic tools on his body towards the three ghosts and detonated them at the same time. As several magic tools exploded, the spiritual consciousness that controlled the magic tools was also destroyed. It was like a heavy hammer hitting his head hard, and the whole person fell into chaos. Fortunately, Zhao King was still awake, and the three ghosts did not expect Li Zhirui to be so determined and were stopped by the violent explosion. Although it was only 2 or 3 breaths, it was enough for Zhao King to rush into the river. The cold river water made Li Zhirui's confused mind clear for a moment, and he took the opportunity to hide in space with Zhao King. So when the three ghosts flew above the river, their spiritual consciousness was fully spread, but they could not find any trace of them. This result made Sangui look extremely ugly, because he never expected that Li Zhirui, a foundation-building cultivator, could really escape from his hands. Sangui began to look for Li Zhirui along the river, but after half an hour, he did not find anything, and it was unlikely to find him at this time. Damn it, Sangui roared angrily, but in the end he could only turn back. He could not have thought that Li Zhirui had a mysterious space, and only thought that he escaped with the help of the water escape talisman. Tisk, senior brother didn't even catch a foundation-building cultivator, one of the golden elixir, seeing his gloomy face, smiled and teased. There are many factions in Yinfeng Cave, and the factions of the two people are hostile to each other. Now that they have the opportunity, they will naturally laugh at each other. If you don't shut up, I can help you. Sangui glanced at him coldly, as if he would start fighting without saying a word. In this way, the man retreated, because he knew that if a fight really broke out, he would definitely be embarrassed. As for the other Jinden, they stood by without saying a word, as if they had not seen the fight between the two. Two flowers bloom, each showing its own beauty. However, at the critical moment, Li Zhirui, who had luckily hidden in the space, fell straight down as soon as he came in. His injuries were extremely serious now. His meridians were injured because of the rough refining of the spiritual elixir. And his soul was damaged because of the self-explosion of all the magic tools. In addition, his magic power was overdrawn. When he found that he was safe, the air in his heart suddenly dissipated and he fainted directly. Seeing this, Daking shouted anxiously, rushed to Li Zhirui at his fastest speed, and cast various spells to heal his injuries. Although this could not wake Li Zhirui up immediately, it greatly relieved his pain. At least his face, which was originally frowned, was now much more relaxed. This scene made Daking's heart fall back immediately. After Daking was exhausted from casting spells many times, he began to ask Zhaoqing what happened to them that caused Li Zhirui to be so seriously injured. Zhaoqing's intelligence is not very high, and he can only vaguely repeat what he saw. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Family. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it was several days later. On this day, Li Zhirui opened his eyes and used his spiritual consciousness to check the situation in his body. He couldn't help but look bitter. The meridians were damaged, and the serious parts were shaky and almost broken. The soul also became listless, and the sea of consciousness that was originally shining with spiritual light now became lifeless. At least I survived, Li Zhirui comforted him. In fact, he was able to escape from the hands of the three ghosts, in addition to the other party's contempt and disdain, but also because Li Zhirui was cruel enough to him and actually abandoned all the magic tools in his hand. Li. Hearing Li Zhirui's voice, Daking and Zhaoqing hurriedly looked over and asked about his injuries. It's okay, just rest for a while. Li Zhirui didn't want them to worry, so he told a white lie. Obviously Daking didn't believe this, and urged him to retreat and treat his injuries as soon as possible to prevent his injuries from getting worse. I know. You don't need to practice during this period. After saying that, Li Zhirui did not get up, but sat cross-legged. After swallowing 2 elixirs for healing meridians, he began to slowly breathe in the surrounding spiritual energy. It took 3 or 4 months to treat the meridians that were about to break. Fortunately, the injuries to the meridians behind were not so serious, and they could be cured in another month or 2. However, the meridians were very fragile at this time, and too much mana could not be used, otherwise they would be damaged again. As for the injuries of the soul, Li Zhirui could only take time to treat them occasionally because he did not have so much time, so that the injuries did not improve much now. At most they would not get worse. He had estimated the time it would take to heal all the injuries before, and it would take at least half a year. But this kind of thing is not something he can do quickly if he wants to. He can only do it slowly. However, in the secret realm, with the investment of a large amount of manpower and resources in Yinfeng Cave, more and more ghosts died at the hands of demon cultivators, and this eventually alarmed the ghost of the half-step 3rd level. However, Yinfeng Cave had known about this for a long time and was ready to deal with him. They had been waiting for him to appear. However, there were not many demon cultivators who had spiritual objects to deal with him, so after he appeared, a large number of demon cultivators still died in the army of ghosts led by him. But unfortunately, his luck was not very good. Not long after, he met a disciple of Yinfeng Cave, who happened to have a spiritual object to deal with the Ghost King. After a fierce battle, the ghost was still more skilled and killed and devoured the demon cultivator, but he also suffered some injuries. After all, the power of the 3rd level talisman was not small. He wanted to return to the cave to recuperate, but it was not as he wished. He met another disciple. This time, he not only failed to kill him, but his injuries became more and more serious. More importantly, he didn't know that he had been marked by the demon cultivator. The demon cultivator immediately contacted his fellow disciples nearby and wanted to join forces to kill the Ghost King. As long as he was solved, the secret realm would no longer be a threat, and as the leader, his status in the sect would rise again. The Ghost King, under the siege of several foundation-building demon cultivators, had already died. Not long after, the secret realm was occupied by the Yinfeng cave, and the huge number of ghosts inside were almost gone, but it was said that it was thousands of miles away on the Banyan Island. "How is it? Are you okay?" Li Zhirui asked anxiously. Li Zhirui shook her head gently, not knowing what to say for a moment. "Uncle Yan, mortals are born, grow old, get sick and die, and there is a final conclusion. Don't be too sad," Li Zhirui persuaded. The person they were talking about was a certain elder of the previous term. The reason why Li Zhirui was so sad was not only because a familiar clan member of his was gone, but also because it reminded him that the remaining old people in the family had not much life left. "I know, I just thought of something," Li Zhirui's voice revealed a bitterness. Li Shiking is looking for a suitable island to move to in the outside world and continue to expand the area of the Banyan Island. Although the current area of the Banyan Island can accommodate hundreds of thousands of mortals, it is now less than half of the limit. However, expanding the island area and integrating the three islands of Bailang Island and Redwood Island is a basic measure that the Li family will never waver in. After all, they have to consider their future descendants, right? For this reason, Li Zhirui also learned the magical power of moving the island. The two took turns to perform it. If Li Zhirui came back now, he would definitely be surprised to see the different Daring Island. Perhaps it was the death of the old monk that made many older monks feel sad and suddenly became unwell. From this perspective, their lifespans may only be 1 or 2 years. Zhirui has been away for training for more than 2 years, right? I wonder when he will come back, and whether he has broken through the bottleneck and is expected to break through the golden elixir in a short time. The last sentence was just imagined by Li Zhirui in his heart, and he did not say it out loud. Regarding Li Zhirui's upcoming breakthrough to the golden elixir, only Li Shiking and Li Zhirui knew about it in the whole family. Because this matter is of great importance, it involves Li Zhirui, a genius monk who has formed a golden elixir for 100 years. What if it arouses Yuan Mingzong's murderous intention and wants to kill him in advance? Moreover, once Li Zhirui succeeds in breaking through, the strength of the Li family will be equal to that of Yuan Mingzong, forming a truly equal relationship, and even threatening Yuan Mingzong's status. How could it remain indifferent? Speaking of which, Zhirui's cultivation level has improved so quickly. In addition to a large amount of resource replenishment, it is probably related to frequent training outside, just like the little girl's Haixun, Li Zhirui said with a smile. When he said this, a trace of envy flashed in his eyes, because he was now limited by the bottleneck and had been stuck in the middle stage of foundation building, and had not made any progress. Maybe you should also go out and look for an opportunity to break through. Besides, with the current situation of the family, there is nothing for you to do if you stay, Li Zhirui said. Because Li Zhirui refined many foundation building pills, and some cultivators who were twice as young as him grew up. Many people borrowed a contribution value from the family in exchange for foundation building pills. Among these people, most of them succeeded in breaking through, and only a few failed, so the Li family now has double-digit foundation building cultivators. Borrowing contribution points from the family to exchange for foundation building pills is a support measure of the Li family, with very strict settings. For example, a maximum of 70% can be borrowed, and the remaining 30% needs to be figured out by oneself, and the cultivation must be perfect in key training, and it must be checked by a special person, etc. The reason for coming up with this method is that there is no other way. The usefulness of the foundation building pill is destined to be too cheap, but the Li family has a shallow foundation, and many clansmen cannot get too many contribution points from their elders. If they wait until they have gathered all the contribution points, they will be old, and the success rate will also decrease if they break through at this time, which is not conducive to the development of the family. Chapter 198, Vassal. Of course, this method also has some disadvantages, such as loopholes. Fortunately, the current members of the Li family are relatively simple, and this is a new measure, so this kind of thing has not happened yet. But the benefits of doing so have begun to show. In the past 2 years, a total of 13 members have submitted applications to the family, and among these people, 9 have successfully broken through the foundation, greatly improving the overall strength of the Li family. So much so that now Li Shiking no longer insists that everyone must stay on the Banyan Island, but let them make their own choices. And now the foundation building cultivators who are still on the island, in addition to the few members who have just broken through and need to consolidate their realm, such as Li Shiding, Li Zhixun and other old people, are no longer on the island. That is, Li Zhizhen is restricted by the position of the patriarch and cannot leave the family, and Li Shiren himself chooses to stay in the family. So Li Shilian persuaded Li Shiren to go out for training, which can not only broaden his horizons, but also find opportunities to break through bottlenecks. After all, he is not young now, but he is still trapped in the middle stage of foundation building. If he drags on, the hope of breaking through the golden elixir will become increasingly slim. Moreover, Li Zhirui's cultivation speed is very fast. She has already broken through the middle stage of foundation building. Li Zhixun is also close to breaking through. It may not be long before Li Shiren will be surpassed by the two younger generations. Speaking of the sisters Li Zhirui and Li Zhixun, the former woke up because of Li Zhirui's scolding, and with the help of her qualifications and talents, she quickly improved her cultivation. As for the latter, Li Zhixun, she has a technique that fits her own talent, and she has worked hard to experience and earn resources outside. Her cultivation speed has also improved, at least she can be on par with ordinary 3 spiritual root cultivators. If Li Zhirui's brilliance suppresses the clansmen of the same age, then Li Zhixun and Li Zhirui have covered up all the brilliance of the new generation of clansmen. Even Li Chengru, the third double spiritual root genius in the family, cannot compete with him because of his young age. However, this thriving scene is what the older generation of clansmen such as Li Shiking want to see most, because it represents the future of the family. Uncle Leon, what you said makes sense. I will think about it carefully. Facing Li Shilian's concern, Li Shiren answered seriously. Li Shilian saw this and stopped persuading him. It happened that the jade card on his waist lit up at this time. This was Li Zhizhen, who had something important to discuss with him. Uncle Leon, you go and do your work. I will go back and think about it carefully. After that, Li Shiren bowed and turned to leave. Li Shiren is no longer an elder now, and he doesn't care about these matters, so he doesn't want to get involved. Li Shilian flew to the main hall and saw Li Zhizhen and a group of elders. He couldn't help but ask in a concentrated voice, did something big happen, Grandpa Yan? Do you still remember that Taixudao was destroyed by the demon clan a few years ago? Seeing him nod, Li Zhizhen continued, the Bai family, a foundation-building family that was once a vassal of Taixudao, now wants to become a vassal of the Li family, huh? Li Shilian looked puzzled. It has been several years since the destruction of Taixudao. How come a foundation-building family suddenly appeared? I heard from them that after the fall of Taixudao, they fled to the territory of Zhuanbing sect and occupied a first-level spiritual vein, but when they upgraded the spiritual vein to the second level, they attracted the covetousness of another foundation-building family. The strength of the Bai family had already declined a lot because of their escape, and was not as good as the other party, not to mention that another family had a genius who became a direct disciple of Zhuanbing sect and had a chance to become a golden elixir. In this case, the Bai family not only had to endure and give in, but also had to worry that the other party wanted to cut the grass and root out the roots to eliminate future troubles, so they fled from Zhuanbing sect. Why did they come to my Li family? Li Shilian asked in confusion. You know, the Li family does not have many spiritual lands, and they are all on the clan land planned by the Li family according to the Li family's plan. In the future, 4 spiritual islands such as Daring Island will merge to become a large island spanning thousands of miles, and this will be the Li family's own clan land. It is impossible to give one to this new vassal family. On the other hand, in the cultivation world near the Banyan Island, there are many and complex forces in Qingshan province, so it is understandable that the Bai family dare not go there, but Yunping province under the rule of Yuan Mingzong is different. After they annexed the territory of the Qingjian sect, after a cleansing, they have a lot of vacant low-level spiritual veins in their hands. If this family surrenders to Yuan Mingzong, they will at least get a first-level spiritual vein as a clan land. The head of the Bai family said clearly that because the Li family has no vassal family now, if they surrender, they will become the first vassal family, and there will be more benefits. Li Zhizhen couldn't help but laugh. The title of the first, as long as it is used well, will generally bring huge benefits to oneself, so the Bai family has this idea. This Bai clan leader is honest. Li Shilian chuckled and asked, What do you think? Many elders agreed and opposed this, and they argued endlessly. In the end, it was Li Zhirui who spoke up to calm the situation. I don't think it's necessary to agree to this for the time being, Li Zhirui expressed his thoughts. First of all, the family has no spiritual land for the Bai family, so they need to find a way to solve it themselves. Secondly, even if they become vassals, they will not bring any benefits to the family. The so-called buying horse bones with a lot of gold is not necessary for the current Li family. Because the Li family is still in a period of rapid development, its strength is changing with each passing day, and the disadvantages of the vassal family outweigh the benefits for them. Finally, Taekwondo is extremely chaotic, and this Bai family is probably the same, which may lead to a bad family atmosphere. This is what Li Zhirui attaches the most importance to. And from the fact that the Bai family abandoned Yuan Mingzong and chose the Li family, it can be seen that the head of the family is scheming. Such people often have a low bottom line and are likely to be fence-sitters who fall to which side the wind blows. After listening to this, Li Zhirui pondered for a moment and said, "In this case, then refuse it." Li Zhirui nodded, and after the meeting, he randomly arranged a clan member to reply to the Bai family. When the head of the Bai family heard the answer from the Li family, a dark light flashed in his eyes, but his face showed a look of loss and hurt. "In that case, it is our Bai family who is too high to marry." "Thank you for coming," the Bai clan leader said bitterly. The clan member nodded, without much contact with the other party, and immediately turned around and left the Bai family's temporary residence, an inn in Yunqingfang City. "Clan leader, what should we do now? The Li family does not agree to our vassalage," an elder said anxiously. In fact, what the Li family and others did not know was that the Bai family did not want to surrender to them at the beginning, but to Emperor Yuanming. However, Emperor Yuanming gave them a condition, that is, to become a vassal family of the Li family. Chapter 199 Competition. Therefore, the Bai family is a vassal of the Li family on the surface, but in fact, they are undercover agents arranged by Yuan Mingzong. Unfortunately, this undercover agent did not even take the first step of sneaking into the enemy camp. "We can't stay in Yunping's house anymore. Immediately notify all clansmen to leave and go to King Shan's house to find a spiritual vein," Patriarch Bai said decisively. Since the Li family did not agree, Yuan Mingzong might not agree either, and he might destroy their Bai family in order to keep it secret. So for the sake of safety, they should leave Yunping's house first. "Patriarch, there are so many forces in King Shan's house. If we go in as outsiders, we may be rejected by them together." Patriarch Bai knew this, too. But what else can he do now? He can't risk letting the Bai family be destroyed in his hands. The Li family's senior officials quickly put this matter behind them. After all, as the Li family continued to grow and the number of clansmen increased, they had a lot of things to deal with every day. After a period of explosive population growth, the current Li family has hundreds of Kigan members, although many of these members do not have Li family blood. However, most of them joined the Li family through marriage, and they were trained by the Li family since childhood, so apart from the issue of blood relationship, they are completely Li family members. Of course, there may be those who are born ungrateful. For such people, the Li family has no good ideas. After all, this is their innate nature, which is not so easy to change. Today, the Big Banyan Island is very lively, even more lively than the annual Spirit Test Conference. You know, nowadays, the Li family has to spend several days just to test the spirit roots of children of appropriate age. There are tens of thousands of people in each test. In addition to their parents and the monks watching, it is not an exaggeration to say that the spirit test site in those days is crowded with people. As for the reason for the current bustle, it is a large-scale event organized by Li Zhirui, a family competition. The rules are also very simple. According to the different cultivation levels, there are 4 tracks, the first, middle and last 3 for key training, and 1 for foundation building. The final winner is selected through the competition on the ring. The reason why the foundation building is not divided into small realms is that there is no need for it now. The Li family still has a few foundation building cultivators. In addition to Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui, who are in the late stage of foundation building, there are only Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui in the middle stage of foundation building. The others are in the early stage of cultivation, and many of them have just broken through. The rewards for the family competition are also very generous. For example, the first place in the late stage of key training will directly receive a precious foundation building pill. The competition begins, As the referee announced the start of the competition, the cultivators who had drawn numbers in advance came on stage one after another. Because of the large number of people, the Li family could not build so many rings, so they started fighting directly in the wilderness. The various spells were overwhelming, and the powerful magic weapons were enviable. At the same time, they also learned something while watching. Oh my god. Li Zhirui is also here to participate in the competition. He's going to participate? Then she will definitely be the first in the foundation building track. It's a pity that Li Zhirui is not on the family, otherwise we can see the famous scene of the two pearls of the family fighting each other. The topic suddenly became distorted here. Everyone began to argue about who is more powerful, Li Zhirui or Li Zhirui, but they couldn't get a result. After all, they only knew that Li Zhirui's combat power was extremely high, but they had never seen Li Zhirui take action, so they didn't know how strong she was. However, the strength shown by Li Zhirui also made everyone admire her. The sharp sword energy and the sword moves that vaguely had the tendency to form a school of their own would quickly defeat her opponents. If there was a stubborn person who was unwilling to admit defeat, then Li Zhirui would use her strength to teach him a lesson and defeat him neatly. The first time the Li family held a family competition, the effect was unprecedentedly good, and it actively mobilized the fighting spirit of the clan members. Many young clan members even shouted that they would go out to travel now to improve their strength. However, this is simply impossible for the Li family, because the clan rules stipulate that clan members under the age of 18 or not in the late stage of key training cannot leave the Banyan Island at will. Want to leave secretly? Not to mention that the Banyan Island is an island, the patrol team that has never been withdrawn on the island, and the jade-billed eagle soaring in the sky are enough to make their ideas die in the womb. Many people think that Li Zhirui came back to participate in the competition for that precious reward, a set of second-level top-grade magic tools, including attack, defense, and flight. Judging from the rewards taken out, the Li family did spend a lot of thought and spirit stones just to hold this event well, and this was unintentionally successful. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, Li Zhirui had been in the space for half a year. After such a long period of healing, he is now basically healed, and the meridians can use mana, but it must be carefully controlled. After all, the meridians that have just been repaired are still very fragile. As for the soul, it is better than this situation, but it cannot be overused. This will cause Li Zhirui's strength to drop significantly, and he can't participate in high-intensity battles at all. But he no longer wanted to train outside, because as his injuries healed, the bottleneck that had been preventing him from going further had begun to loosen. As long as he continued to attack the golden elixir, it would not take long for him to break it and clear the obstacles on the road to the golden elixir. It's time to go out, Li. The two pets immediately looked up and wanted to go out with Li Zhirui. After all, they were really worried about his current state. But Li Zhirui refused. Seeing that the two pets were anxious and even Daquing was about to stop him, he explained, "Don't worry, I will be careful. Besides, if you are too big, it will be easier to expose yourself." He did not forget that the place where he entered this space was on the battlefield, in a large river near the Eclipse Wind State. Although it would be safer to go out with the two pets, it might also attract demon cultivators. And Li Zhirui's current state is not suitable for fighting. Fortunately, after he went out, the area was empty and there was no trace of demon cultivators. After taking out the jade map and identifying the direction, Li Zhirui ran towards the southeast carefully. The whole journey was very peaceful, and he did not encounter any demon cultivators, which made him feel relieved. But when he went a little further and was about to cross the center line of the battlefield and come to the side closer to the cultivators, several black lights suddenly flew out from the left and attacked him. Oh no! There are demon cultivators ambushing nearby. Li Zhirui's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly cast a defensive spell, hoping to block the attack. At the same time, he summoned Daquing and Zhaoqing, ready to use the power of the two pets to overcome this crisis. Thank you for your support. Chapter 200 Encounter. Daquing and Zhaoqing were quite powerful, but they were outnumbered by the demon cultivators, not to mention that they had to protect Li Zhirui, a burden. Soon, they were at a disadvantage, stretched to their limits, and looked particularly embarrassed. 2 second-level spirit beasts are a pleasant surprise. The leading demon cultivator laughed wantonly. I haven't tasted a second-level spirit beast for a long time. Today is just the right time to satisfy your appetite, okay? The demon cultivators responded in unison, and their moves became more and more fierce. After all, this was a battlefield between two major forces, and there was no guarantee that there would be no cultivators coming. It was better to fight quickly. A trace of determination flashed in Li Zhirui's eyes. Even if his foundation was damaged, he couldn't let Zhao King and Da King die with him here. Just when he was about to cast a powerful spell, a clear shout suddenly came from behind him. Deal with them. Li Zhirui looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the person who came was a tall, beautiful, but heroic female foundation-building cultivator, and behind her, there were more than a dozen late-stage foundation-building cultivators. Zhang Fengwu, the demon cultivator, recognized the female cultivator at a glance, and was so frightened that he turned around and ran away without hesitation, even using a secret method to speed up. Seeing this, Li Zhirui couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Did this female cultivator have such a terrible reputation among the demon cultivators? You know, the Bailey team was also very strong at the time, but he didn't see the demon cultivators fleeing. Speaking of Bailey, I don't know what their current situation is. I think they should have fallen into the hands of ghosts or demon cultivators, right? Among them, the only one who might survive should be Bailey, whose identity is a mystery. HMPH, the woman snorted coldly, you are lucky to run fast, otherwise I will definitely kill you all here. If they go any further, they will be too close to Yinfeng Cave. By then, the number of demon cultivators will increase greatly. Even if they are strong, they will not be able to defeat the large number of demon cultivators. I am Li Zhirui. Thank you all for your help. Li Zhirui bowed to everyone sincerely. If they had not appeared in time, he would have really used his killing move, but the consequences of doing so would be unbearable for him. Dao, there is no need to do this. We are just passing by here and happen to meet you. Zhang Fengwu waved his hand and said generously. Li Zhirui said seriously, how can I ignore your life-saving grace? Whether it is a cultivator or a demon cultivator, they all pay attention to cause and effect, but the former is more about finding ways to resolve cause and effect, while the latter is the one who resolves cause and effect. Seeing this, Zhang Fengwu didn't know what to say. He couldn't stop Li Zhirui from resolving cause and effect, right? I am a second-level water alchemist. If you want to refine elixirs, you can come to me. I will refine them for free. Li Zhirui ignored their expressions and said, you can also buy elixirs from me. I only charge for elixirs. Elixirs cannot be given for free, otherwise, with so many cultivators, he would not be able to take out so many elixirs even if he emptied his money. Moreover, he would not lose too much if he bought them with elixirs. Of course, if you want to use this method to settle the cause and effect, it is definitely not enough to refine a few furnaces of elixirs. But he is not in a hurry. Anyway, he is injured now. While healing, he can help others refine elixirs and repay the cause and effect. Fellow Taoist is actually a water alchemist, Zhang Fengwu said with a surprised face. Li Zhirui nodded, waved his hand to take out the few remaining second-level elixirs, and said, these are all. If you don't mind, just take them. But those cultivators did not rush forward, but looked at Zhang Fengwu one after another. After she nodded, they began to fight for these elixirs. Although their income is not low, why don't they want free stuff? And the quality is so good. Li Zhirui also noticed this little detail, and couldn't help but marvel in his heart. This female cultivator's means are really powerful. She can manage a group of late foundation building so obediently. We are going back to Xiancheng, why don't you go with us? Zhang Fengwu asked. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Li Zhirui bowed his head again to thank them. Whether they really want to go back to Xiancheng or choose to go back to Xiancheng because of him, it is worth expressing his gratitude. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to be so polite. Zhang Fengwu saw that Li Zhirui was too reserved and couldn't help but smile. This is the courtesy. Zhang Fengwu curled his lips and thought to himself, a young man is so mature, it's really boring. Okay, let's go back to Xiancheng first, and we'll talk about these elixirs later. After that, he took the elixirs that everyone was arguing about and put them in his storage bag. During this time, she used her spiritual sense to scan the elixirs and found that all the elixirs were of excellent quality, far better than those in the Immortal City. No wonder everyone was arguing endlessly. It seemed that no one wanted to give up such a good elixir. Let's go. Li Zhirui followed their team and traveled unimpeded along the way, as if there were no demon cultivators on this road at all. But in fact, it was because the demon cultivators nearby deliberately avoided them. Soon, they arrived at the Immortal City, but it was not the Nanshan Immortal City that Li Zhirui was familiar with. but the Black Mountain Immortal City. This immortal city is located between a mountain range with no vegetation and black soil all over the ground. It is also the most important immortal city in Shenli Mountain because there is a huge second-level spiritual mine behind it. Dear Taoist friends, this is my communication talisman. If you have any questions, you can find me through this talisman. As he spoke, he handed each person a talisman. These are all the lowest level communication talismans, which contain a trace of the cultivator's breath. After being activated with mana, as long as they are within a certain range, the talisman will follow the breath and find the cultivator. If there's an emergency, you can also visit directly with a communication talisman. Then I won't bother you. After saying that, Li Zhirui turned and left. What he has to do now is to find an inn first, settle down temporarily, heal his wounds, and repay the karma. After these two things are settled, he can return to the family and start retreating to try to break through the golden elixir. But what surprised Li Zhirui was that someone activated the communication talisman the second day after he arrived at the market. Dao Zhang. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows slightly, opened the courtyard door, let Zhang Fengwu in, and then asked, Dao, what elixir do you want to buy? I'm not here to buy elixir. Zhang Fengwu shook his head, looked at Li Zhirui with a sharp look, and said seriously, I came to visit this time because I want you, Dao. We have only known each other for 2 days. Isn't it too early for you to say this? And I'm not a casual person, although you look very beautiful. Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with a dark light, and he deliberately joked. Zhang Fengwu didn't show any shyness at all. He rolled his eyes at him and said, you think too much? Then he said seriously, I want you to join my team and become the team's alchemist. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.